of Oklahoma's Republican primary for governor. He's the founder of the All Things Possible ministry, facing State Attorney General Democrat Phil Weiser in November. America's listening to Fox News.
From around the world,
Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel.
To Washington,
I'm Mike Emanuel.
To your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, this is Trey Gowdy, host of the Trey Gowdy Podcast. Every Tuesday, you'll hear what's on my mind. Plus, every Thursday, there's a special bonus episode where we answer the questions that are on your mind. Make sure to spend your Tuesdays and Thursdays with Trey. Subscribe now at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts. Hope to see you.
America's listening to Fox News.
8 men accused of planning an attack during a UFC fight at the White House face terrorism and attempted murder charges.
The 8 men were indicted in Ohio in 2 separate conspiracies to provide material support to terrorists and to murder a federal government official. All the defendants are accused of helping plot a drone and sniper attack at the White House during last month's UFC event. Federal investigators say the plan began in May. Law enforcement officials learned of the threat on June 10th, just days before the UFC event. One suspect says the plot included flying explosive-laden drones into the event and then shooting at the crowd. 7 of the 8 suspects were arrested last month. The Justice Department says an 8th suspect, Chandler Skaggs of West Virginia, was charged this week. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
At least 11 people are killed in a wildfire in southern Spain, several found in burned-out vehicles. 19 people are reported to be missing. A chip company going public has raised a foreign company record $26.5 billion ahead of trading today.
Chip maker SK Hynix, based in South Korea, is expected to start trading today on the NASDAQ. It's the latest global company to top $1 trillion in market value. It's a major supplier to the artificial intelligence buildup. Ryan Payne of Payne Capital says the company wants to attract more U.S. investors.
It's smart if you're SK Hynix because it's very hard to buy stocks on the South Korean Stock Exchange. So by opening up to U.S. investors, making it easier to buy, that creates another bid under that market because their big competitors, Micron. And typically Micron trades at like a double the valuation.
This week, SK Hynix reported robust demand for the stock. Jenny Coselda, Fox News.
Sports. France advances to the World Cup semifinals after beating Morocco 2-0. The Red Sox and Marlins have 6-game winning streaks heading into the last weekend before baseball's All-Star break. I'm Chris Foster. This is Fox News.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. What happens when the left plucks a working-class man from obscurity and pushes him for high office? In an era of democratic desperation, mainstream media creates narratives to protect him, even at the expense of their own stated values. Graham Plattner's rise and fall stains all the institutions of the left. Democrats and the media tried to bury or downplay Plattner's checkered past, including his Nazi SS tattoo, his record of disturbing public comments, and his moral depravity. Don't be fooled by the sudden shift in media coverage. Everything that outlets like Axios and the New York Times reports as news today had been reported weeks and months ago by independent media. The Times cooked its own report in early June to protect Plattner. Every elite media outlet perpetuated the working-class lie about a man who lives off his wealthy parents. The insistence by Democrats and the media to make excuses for Plattner exposes the corruption of both. The Nazi tattoo told us all we needed to know. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, America stood on the edge of collapse. Over the next 4 years, the Civil War claimed more than 700,000 lives and tested whether our republic could endure. As the war drew to a close, Lincoln looked beyond victory. He looked toward healing. In his second inaugural address, he challenged the nation. Let us strive on to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. Lincoln understood that preserving the greatest experiment in self-government required more than winning a war. It required the character to restore what had been broken. More than 160 years later, America still faces division. The question is not whether we'll disagree. The question is whether we still have the wisdom and the character to heal together.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy, pretty much hands off. They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433. 800-965-1433.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Have you ever wondered, with all the different religions and interpretations of the Bible, how you can be sure that you're on the right path in your spiritual journey? The powerful new book, You and God by Peter Philippi, helps you answer this question and discover how to establish a truly personal relationship with God through biblical understanding and faith. Get your copy of You and God by Peter Philippi today by visiting pbmusa.org. That's pbmusa.org.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by Class A Insurance, owned by Thomas Iacenta.
It's July 10th, and this is your Fox Daily Snapshot. Today is National Kitten Day, when those little feline balls of fur show off their cuteness and melt their way into our hearts. Videos of cats and kittens can be found by the millions on the web and are a welcome distraction for so many of us during our day. However, the day is also meant to shine awareness on the responsibility of owning one of these little bundles of four-legged joy. So remember, if you're thinking of getting a kitten, make sure you have what it takes. Also on this date, in 1934, pitcher Carl Hubbell of the New York Giants set a Major League Baseball All-Star Game record for consecutive strikeouts, punching out a murderer's row of would-be Hall of Famers like Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, Al Simmons, and Joe Cronin. If it's your birthday today, you share it with physicist, electrical engineer, and inventor Nikola Tesla, born in 1856. I'm Tushar Saxena, and that's your Fox Daily Snapshot.
If you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Last year, Mitch, 50, railroad worker, income 100 G's a year, score 630, called to consolidate his debt with a cash-out refinance. Team Hochberg loan officer Johnny Hendrickson helped Mitch pay off his debt and save $800 a month. Johnny called Mitch for a 6-month post-closing checkup and informed him his credit score was now over 700. Then Johnny helped Mitch lower his rate, remove the PMI, and save him another $400 a month while covering all his closing costs. Let's review. Team Hochberg loan officer Johnny Hendrickson helped Mitch eliminate his debt, save $1,200 a month, and improve his scores over 100 points. Team Hochberg's helped thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit that website you know you love, 56david.com. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643114.
Making the switch to a new communications and IT company may seem like a big ordeal, but if you're not getting the reliable support, consistent internet, and secure solutions your company needs, meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore, Access One is Chicago-owned and Chicago-run, a trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. We'll make the switch easier than you think. Let's talk. Call 800-804-8333 or visit accessoneInc.com. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal locally.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Fight or flight? In Illinois, you've got both options. You can stay and fight, engage in local races, work to change things. Or you can vote with your feet. At leavingil.com, we help you build a smart exit plan so you know where to go, when to go, and how to do it right. Take our quick exit readiness assessment. Go to leavingil.com. That's leavingil.com. Or call 224-800-6979.
I'm David Ortiz. When I lost my mom, she was only 46. And I lost my dad to cancer. It was the worst pain I ever felt. It made me think, what will happen with the people I love when my time is up? That's why I have life insurance. Ethos makes it easy. It's all online, take about 10 minutes, and you can get up to $3 million in coverage.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. That's ethos.com/save. Pay testimonial. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
Hey AM 560 listeners, Jeff checking in again from jeffbuysyourhouse.com. What I learned serving our great nation in the military is that every mission is unique and success starts with listening. For nearly 20 years, our veteran-led house buying team has taken the time to understand what matters most to each homeowner we serve. Every home has a story, and every seller has different needs. Whether you want a quick closing or need extra time to find your next place, we customize our approach around what works best for you. That's how we've earned hundreds of 5-star Google reviews and an A+ rating with the BBB, by putting relationships first. No repairs needed, no cleanout required, and you pick the closing date that works best for your schedule. At jeffbuysyourhouse.com, we're here to help you through the entire transition, not just the transaction. Are you ready to work with a local team that takes the time to understand your home selling needs? Sell your house to the trusted source by calling us today at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-3683. 6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Sean Thompson here. Recently, someone asked me, what is it that I love most about being on AM 560 The Answer? I didn't hesitate. I love the fact that AM 560 is a family. You, the listeners, our advertisers, and all of us who are on air make up one big family in a very bad place. We look out for each other because we share the same values. And so many of our advertisers are small and medium businesses. They're owners who work very hard, they play by the rules, they pay their taxes, they make their communities even stronger. If that describes you, and you own or operate a business, then I want to invite you to consider working with AM 560 to market your business. If you want to reach AM 560 family members, whether through radio, live events, or digital marketing, then call Amy O'Toole. She's a wonderful girl. She's in charge of advertising around here. Call her at 847-472-8925. That's 847-472-8925. Find out how you can become part of the AM 560 family. Together, our family can truly help make America great again.
Scott Jennings fearlessly fights back against the mainstream media on the Scott Jennings podcast.
So the Democratic message for the 2026 midterm is, we don't love America. That's it. The message from the left is, as long as people that we don't like are allowed to win elections, we hate America. That's a heck of a thing to be running an election on. We hate America.
Subscribe for free today on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Hey Chicagoland, Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. The military taught me that every mission is different. You assess the situation, listen to your team, then execute a plan built around what's needed. Same with helping families sell their homes. Whether it's an inherited house, a parent needing senior living, or life's just taking you in a new direction, we don't show up with a one-size-fits-all answer. We start by listening. What's your timeline? What are you worried about? What would make this easier? Then we build a solution around your needs. No repairs or cleanout are necessary. You pick the timeline that works for you, keep your memories, and we handle everything else. Since 2007, our veteran-led team has earned hundreds of 5-star reviews by doing exactly that, listening first, and treating every family with respect. If you're ready for a no-obligation conversation, call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com. That's jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom. Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
The following contains a celebrity impersonation.
Mr. President, we're seeing reporting that air conditioning systems are failing as temperatures rise. What is your response?
I said, don't wait. People wait until the last second, then suddenly it's hot and nothing works. I understand this stuff probably better than anybody.
Mr. President, why hasn't the White House issued any guidance?
I gave perfect guidance. Call Air Right Heating and Cooling. That's the guidance. If people followed it, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Sir, but homeowners have so many HVAC options.
They're not like Air Right. You've got some bad installers out there, some real bad hombres. I wouldn't let them near the White House. It would be a complete disaster.
Mr. President, there are reports of significant rebates on new systems. Can you confirm?
I've heard about them. A lot of people talking about them. If you miss out, you'd have to be really not so smart. Tremendous savings, let me tell you.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling at AIR-RITE.com. Air Right, doing it right since 1959.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, America stood on the edge of collapse. Over the next 4 years, the Civil War claimed more than 700,000 lives and tested whether our republic could endure. As the war drew to a close, Lincoln looked beyond victory. He looked toward healing. In his second inaugural address, he challenged the nation. Let us strive on to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. Lincoln understood that preserving the greatest experiment in self-government required more than winning a war. It required the character to restore what had been broken. More than 160 years later, America still faces division. The question is not whether we'll disagree. The question is whether we still have the wisdom and the character to heal together.
Hello everyone, Gary Sinise here. I'm thrilled to share that me and the Lieutenant Dan Band are returning to Cantini Park in Wheaton, Illinois, where we will be rocking for our vets. Join us on July 11th for the West Suburban Foundation for Disabled Veterans America 250 concert, saluting our veterans and supporting your veteran community. Tickets are on sale now at WSFDV.org, and I can't wait to see you there. Let's rock for our vets.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. What happens when the left plucks a working-class man from obscurity and pushes him for high office? In an era of democratic desperation, mainstream media creates narratives to protect him, even at the expense of their own stated values. Graham Plattner's rise and fall stains all the institutions of the left. Democrats and the media tried to bury or downplay Plattner's checkered past, including his Nazi SS tattoo, his record of disturbing public comments, and his moral depravity. Don't be fooled by the sudden shift in media coverage. Everything that outlets like Axios and the New York Times reports as news today had been reported weeks and months ago by independent media. The Times cooked its own report in early June to protect Plattner. Every elite media outlet perpetuated the working class lie about a man who lives off his wealthy parents. The insistence by Democrats and the media to make excuses for Plattner exposes the corruption of both. The Nazi tattoo told us all we needed to know. I'm Ed Morrissey.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect patchy fog in the morning, leading to reduced visibility. The day will be humid with a mix of clouds and sunshine, reaching a high of 81. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 65. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the CTU apparatchiks intervened during the Chicago Board of Education meeting to complain about, what else do they complain about? Alleged budget cuts. What's CTU's budget up to? About $11 billion now. And despite those heady days where COVID money was being printed in D.C. and drop shipped to schools like Chicago, still can't make it work. And that's in spite of declining enrollment. It's an odd situation there, but look, the last thing these heroes are going to do is allow a bunch of bureaucrats on the Chicago Board of Education to, quote unquote, cut funding for drama programs and after-school programs and mentorship programs, all of the wonderful things that CTU alleges to represent.
I am a CPS educator. The preliminary budget has cut the drama program at our school. This is a life-changing program, and our students and their families will suffer as a result. CPS, we need investment, not cuts. Call for a special session to fully fund K-12 schools in Springfield.
I am an athletic director and teacher for CPS. My role transforms student lives. CPS lieutenant, principals, and to eliminate and all athletic directors. Coaches have not been paid their stipends. Support staff to make all our support CPS adequate and equitable.
I am a school librarian in CPS. The preliminary budget has cut librarians, eliminating information literacy instruction. Every neighborhood school deserves a fully functional library. CPS, invest in librarians, don't cut them.
I am a librarian at CPS. The preliminary budget has cut 3 positions at my school, and our library will be closed. Students need thriving libraries in order to learn, to be strong readers, to be strong writers, leaders, and researchers. CPS, invest in our libraries. Do not cut them.
Fund our schools! Oh, then they took to the streets, of course.
Fund our schools!
Yes.
Save our art! Fund our schools! Save our art! Fund our schools! Save our lovers! Fund our schools! Save our art! Fund our schools! Save the slave! Fund our schools! Who got the power? We got the power! We got it! Who's got it? We got it! Who's got it? We got it! Who's got it? We got it!
They're a fun, self-congratulatory group, aren't they? They're right about that last part. Who's got the power? We got it. You know, there's a mayor's race next year, I hear. We spent a lot of time trying to discern if any of the announced or prospective candidates would be interested in pursuing more robust public safety programs. Anybody want to take on the teachers union in that crowd? Even those that, like Susana Mendoza, who have suggested that defunding the police is a bad idea. I don't see it. I don't see it. They do have the power. But it provides a market opportunity still, not just to have a few people rail at BLM Brandon and other city council humans, feudal lords, in public comment section at city council meetings, but to actually occupy a position that's responsive to the silent plurality, maybe, of Chicago taxpayers in the larger region that isn't down with CTU's alleged struggle. Remember, this is just a few minutes removed from that historic deal. Victory is what CEO Pedro Martinez, then CEO of CPS, called it. Victory. That last teacher's contract that results in those apparatchiks who have the power, as you heard them chanting, getting raises of about 32% over 4 years. The administrative side gets even bigger, grows, number one, with a bigger budget to manage, of course, despite declining enrollment again. And I know what you're going to say. Well, Dan, they need a living wage. No, they've got one. The average salary under the new contract will reach $130,000 by 2029, and that's before you get into the fact that CPS, meaning taxpayers, pick up 2/3 of their pension contribution. So really, the contribution they're supposed to make, in theory, that was obviated 30 years ago, and it just persists because that's the way government works. They pay a fraction of that. This is why you're getting teachers paying $170 in, getting a guaranteed $1.4 million back. And remember, Chicago sports the biggest commercial property tax rate among big cities in America. CPS also has the worst bond rating of any major school district in the country. And I don't think I have to go through the test scores, do I, in terms of what actually is produced in terms of the quality of the students ready for post-secondary work or beyond. But again, they have the power. On the good news front, I am happy to report that an important milestone has been achieved by the city, this collective group that lords over the schools as well. I mean, CTU lords over the schools, but in terms of formality, the mayor lords over the schools. So that necessarily implicates budgeteer BLM Brandon. And this week, underreported story, major achievement.
I believe it's important to note here is that city services, people expect the delivery of those services, whether it's picking up trash, trimming trees, and especially after these last couple of storms, the effort to trim trees in Chicago in a more equitable way is something that we are obviously directionally stronger in.
Tree trimming equity has been achieved or is nearly achieved. The progress is measurable. So look, we're not great at educating kids. We're not great at keeping people safe. We are great at employing communists with very handsome salaries and benefits packages. And they're a fun group, as I said, so they're very entertaining. And tree trimming equity. I mean, that's something.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. It's news, opinion, and insight at the speed of your life. Streaming at 560theanswer.com on the AM 560 mobile app, or tell your smart speaker to play The Answer Chicago.
534 in Chicago, 70 degrees, cloudy skies, and a bit of fog. An Illinois ban on some semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacities is likely headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. On Thursday, the Seventh Circuit reversed a district court decision that found the Illinois ban unconstitutional. Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director Richard Pearson expressed optimism that the case will go all the way to the high court.
Well, I think so, yes. I think we're getting to that point. We already have Viramontes up there, which is the Cook County case.
The court granted cert in Viramontes last week and also took up a Connecticut case.
We have mountains of evidence. I think somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 pages of evidence upholding our position.
Supporters of gun control laws praise the appellate court decision. Chicago aldermen rejected an attempt by Mayor Brandon Johnson to ask voters about a tax on millionaires. The Rules Committee turned down Johnson's proposal for a non-binding referendum, but that didn't stop former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn and State Rep LaShawn Ford, who've taken their next steps in the campaign to raise taxes on those who earn more than $1 million. And apparently the Speaker of the House is on board. Our Jim Talamonte is at Chicago City Hall.
Quinn and Ford introduced 2 ordinances in Chicago on Thursday calling for a citywide referendum. The Center Square asked Quinn why Illinois does not place a cap on property tax increases like Indiana does.
That has not worked well in Illinois. There are too many exceptions. Now, I think we ought to take a look at those exceptions.
On Wednesday, Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch told the Center Square reporter Sean Reed he fought for Ford's state constitutional amendment proposal this year.
I certainly would ask folks to join me in the fight to tax the rich, to pass the surcharge tax on millionaires.
Welch said lawmakers should consider the tax if a special session is called for any reason. I'm Jim Talamonte.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum this morning says Mexico will pursue legal action against the United States following a fatal shooting involving immigration and customs enforcement agents in Houston. Google confirms it will now disclose ads that are made using AI. Consumers can now see that information by clicking on the info icon when using a Google platform. A man is charged with DUI in a deadly July 4th crash along I-88 in Naperville. Vincent Buttermer faces charges of aggravated DUI and multiple misdemeanors. The accident happened on I-88 between Winfield Road and Route 59. The gas tax holiday in Indiana will result in $533 million in lost tax revenue for state and local governments in that state. However, drivers have been saving 61 cents on every gallon of gas they buy, but that gas tax holiday will end August 6. Governor Braun's administration says local governments will be reimbursed for any money they're losing, and Braun says the state has the reserves and can easily handle the cost. The 117th Race to Mackinac kicks off this morning, where 252 sailing vessels embark on a 333-mile journey. Kevin Foote directs the race from Chicago.
It looks like that there's going to be a bit of a wind shift on late Saturday, perhaps, and that'll take some time to happen. So there may very well be a dead period. But, you know, it's one of the things that makes this race really cool.
It is the largest offshore race of its kind in the world. Cubs failed to sweep out their road series against the Orioles with a 3-2 loss, while the White Sox do get swept out by the Red Sox after a 2-1 loss at home. The news, a service of Allstate. Wish you could save on home insurance? With Allstate, you could easily saving at quality protection. It is a win-win. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, and in 2 minutes, our AccuWeather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center on AM 560.
Alex Marlowe explains what America means to him.
It's not just our values that make America unique and special. It is our people who are uniquely entrepreneurial, industrious, and creative. And they give the world hope that even in our darkest days, we've created a land that will foster and nourish and encourage these individuals to emerge and make America and even the world a better place.
Don't miss the Alex Marlowe Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Sean Thompson here. Recently, someone asked me, what is it that I love most about being on AM 560, The Answer? I didn't hesitate. I love the fact that AM 560 is a family. You, the listeners, our advertisers, and all of us who are on air make up one big family in a very bad place. We look out for each other because we share the same values. And so many of our advertisers are small and medium businesses. They're owners who work very hard, they play by the rules, they pay their taxes, they make their communities even stronger. If that describes you and you own or operate a business, then I want to invite you to consider working with AM 560 to market your business. If you want to reach AM 560 family members, whether through radio, live events, or digital marketing, then call Amy O'Toole. She's a wonderful girl. She's in charge of advertising around here. Call her at 847-472-8925. That's 847-472-8925. Find out how you can become part of the AM 560 family Together, our family can truly help make America great again.
You're going to love the taste of the meats, chicken, and pork available to you from Good Ranchers. This company connects you with American farmers and ranchers raising cattle, hogs, and chickens the right way. No antibiotics, no added hormones, and pasture raised. It's a serious upgrade from what's in your supermarket.
More than 85% of grass-fed beef sold in grocery stores is imported. Good Ranchers partners with local farmers and ranchers to deliver 100% American meat straight to your door.
Both of our families enjoy what Good Ranchers provides, whether it's a mouth-watering ribeye steak or out-of-this-world bacon. This July, Good Ranchers is celebrating all 50 states with $50 off your first order. Just visit GoodRanchers.com. Use my name, Clay, as your promo code at checkout to get $50 off anything on their site. Remember, that's code Clay for $50 off, and you can also get free meat with every order on top of the $50 off if you decide to start a plan today. GoodRanchers.com. American meat delivered. That's GoodRanchers.com.
At Audi Morton Grove, your complete satisfaction means everything to us. As a family-owned dealership, we're dedicated to making every visit your best experience. Whether you're shopping for a new Audi, visiting for service, or simply taking a test drive, you'll always receive the personal attention and exceptional care you deserve. Visit us at 7000 Gulf Road in Morton Grove or online at AudiMortonGrove.com. McGrath Auto. Service, value, reputation. That's the power of McGrath.
A riddle brought to you by Progressive Insurance. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at Progressive.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect patchy fog in the morning, leading to reduced visibility. The day will be humid with a mix of clouds and sunshine, reaching a high of 81. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 65. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Catarina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the legal proceedings against the man charged with assassinating Charlie Kirk are advancing in earnest. And the evidence the prosecution has presented so far, if you've been paying even passing attention, is, well, in the words of one analyst, incontrovertible. Incontrovertible. That's what Paul Morrow, Fox News Channel, legal analyst, had to say.
Just more incredible evidence. I mean, a full-page handwritten note that clearly detailed his intentions to kill Charlie Kirk.
That's right. And as Josh Ritter made the point, that's been authenticated now by Twiggs. And Twiggs, in fact, took a photo of that note and didn't dispose of it, as Robinson asked him to do. And then, of course, you get this story that we heard, which is the next morning. Robinson starts to realize the fantasy balloon has popped, and he understands what he got himself into. I just got to go back to it. The evidence is incontrovertible. But you know what? At some point, and it doesn't matter legally, but this is very cruel in a way to the family, to Charlie Kirk's family. Wrap this thing up and let's go.
I pray for that.
Yeah.
Well, there are too many conspiracy theorists abounding and pitching their windmill tilting. And it's not just Candace Owens, but she's at the top of the list. Speaking of Lance Twiggs, this was testimony that was made public yesterday. And by the way, just in terms of if anybody is subscribing to the utter nonsense emanating from the Candace Owenses of the world and those who've sort of been apologists for her, like Megyn Kelly, who I'll get to in a second, again, because she compels it. It's not that I want to. They just compel it because they have audience, because there are so many soft minds among us, including on what is ostensibly the commonsensical center right. It's depressing. Twiggs yesterday on exactly what Morrow was talking about the day after. And remember, Lance Twiggs was the assassin's love interest.
So he acted erratically. Was he pacing? Was he just sitting down, relaxing?
No, he was walking around a lot.
Right, and that's within the home? Mm-hmm. And did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it, and then kept going around and just doing stuff, I think, to keep himself busy or distracted or something.
Okay. Did he talk about what he was going to do next?
And then eventually said that he would talk to his parents or turn himself over.
Okay. And when you left, was that how you left, understanding that he was going to turn himself in or go to his parents' house?
Yeah, and I didn't really want to be at our apartment while any of that was happening, regardless of what went down.
Twiggs also provided the purported written confession where he admitted to assassinating Charlie Kirk. This has been reported, but now you see the screenshot of the phone. Twiggs, you weren't the one who did it, right? Multiple question marks. Robinson, I am. I'm sorry. On the engraving of bullets, Twiggs had first-person testimony as to those conversations that Robinson wanted to drill, to do some engraving of bullets.
You here, remember how I was engraving bullets? Was he engraving bullets before this?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but he had said he was planning to go hunting with his family. And he asked me for if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. And I just told him where our Dremel was and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house. But I didn't really think about it until then.
How long before September 10th was this that he asked about the Dremel?
I don't remember, because he'd been talking about the hunting/camping trip for a couple months, but I don't remember when he was specifically asking to engrave the bullets. So
are we talking like a year before?
Oh no, not that long. It would have been, I'd say at most a month before this was when he was asking.
Okay.
And remember, that's important because the bullet used contained messages that were engraved, including "Hey, fascist, catch." So connecting those dots, which, as we talked about a bit yesterday, as Sean Davis from the Federalist said, the dots basically connect themselves. It's so obvious. Just in terms of the lies that have been told, they are so numerous. That starting with the fact that he wasn't there, and we've got all sorts of video evidence that the shooter was not on campus on that day. We've got all sorts of video evidence tracking him all over campus. There's also the no exit wound conspiracy theory. We've had 10 months, as one poster on X put it, we've had 10 months of random people on the internet pretending to be ballistics experts without even knowing the exact type of ammo that was used. Then we finally find that a Remington core load soft point round was used, a controlled expansion hunting bullet with a copper jacket and exposed lead tip that is intentionally designed to deform and expand on impact, preventing full penetration, and thus no exit wound. So, as Matt Morris posted on X, so it turns out all of those ballistic experts on the internet are pretty much just effing morons. Go figure. As Abraham Lincoln famously said, don't believe everything you read on the internet. So Megyn Kelly, 2 days ago, I guess, she said to the conspiracy theorists surrounding Kirk's assassination this.
In courtrooms where I'm from, we operate within the bounds of evidentiary rules. And all we care about is what is admissible and what isn't. And all the stuff around like conspiracy theories and so on, it's not admissible. And to those who still have their doubts about Tyler Robinson, I say it's time to put up or shut up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's time to put up or shut up. It's long past that time, but certainly now that we're into the formal proceeding and evidence is being presented by the state, yeah, that's fair, sure. And then yesterday, it's time to put up or shut up, conspiracy theorists. And then yesterday, she runs interference for the most irresponsible and frighteningly most popular conspiracy theorist, particularly on this topic.
I mean, I don't agree with Candace's theory of this case, but I have to say, I genuinely believe she was traumatized by watching her friend die. I can relate to it. And I think she's in earnest. And I think she distrusts authority. I don't agree with her, again, Matt, but I just like, and I know people have very strong feelings about her. I think she's in her own search for what she believes happened here. And she has zero trust in official words on anything.
She's making,
zero.
Yeah.
I'm not quite that cynical.
Mm-hmm. Matt Murphy, who is a former prosecutor, who was one of her guests and was the person she was talking to when she said those words you heard from Megyn Kelly. It's all very earnest. It's interesting. She's happy to impute motives on people, so many people with whom she disagrees. Megyn Kelly I'm talking about. And intimate, as she does here, wait for it, a conspiracy theory while she's decrying them the previous day, put up or shut up. So happy to do that, but not with, but Candace Owens' motives are clearly pure of heart. It's just an earnest search for the truth. And despite the fact that she has uncovered nothing in support of her wild contentions all this time, and in spite of the evidence that's been presented now, which she continues to just categorically dismiss as a right and proper black helicopter conspiracy theorist, we're supposed to give her the benefit of the doubt when it comes to earnestness, sincerity. Former prosecutor Matt Murphy, not on board.
She's making it harder for Erica Kirk and the entire Kirk family. She's also making things harder on the prosecution. And look, I don't know her. I've never appeared in front of her. I got nothing against her. I got no axe to grind. But she is making things harder for the good guys on this. And Erica Kirk asked her to stop with the stuff, and she said she would. And then Erica Kirk asked her, I think, twice, and she's continued. She's quadrupled down on it, and she sounds insane to me. And again, I don't know her. I would debate her any time on some of this stuff because it's insane. Like Israel didn't kill Charlie Kirk. Sorry, they just didn't. This is a murder case. It's a death penalty case. This is what they look like. This is what killers sound like. This is how these things actually occur in reality.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, you heard him. He said the I word. Megyn Kelly's response to that?
Then we can go down this lane because it was Andrew Colvett of Turning Point who turned over to the FBI Charlie's criticisms of his Jewish donors and his threats to leave the pro-Israel cause right before he was murdered. That was Turning Point. And I love Andrew Colvett. And he did that because he's an honest guy. And he said, you know what? They should investigate everything. They should investigate who else had an axe to grind with Charlie and who else might be motivated. He's not some conspiracy theorist. Like, why? I was told this myself, and it's now been reported by her and others, that there were at least 11, there's a difference in 11 versus 14, Israel-only cell phones on the campus of UVU that day. Like, not from Israeli citizens. In other words, open accounts opened in Israel. And the NSA knew that within 2 minutes because they locked those scenes down and they can tell you exactly what cell phones were on scene. You should not be saying to her or anybody else, you're not allowed to ask that question. And it doesn't necessarily make them a nutcase to not trust the official government narrative.
312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. Happy to entertain anybody who wants to propagate these conspiracy theorists so I can make an example of you, frankly. That's a straw man argument from the good counselor, Megyn Kelly. Nobody should say you're not allowed to ask a question. You're allowed to ask any question you want. Who's saying that? You're allowed to make any supposition you want. But you're not allowed to do so without expecting challenge and response. I mean, you can't have that expectation. You can't. Who said Candace Owens should be silenced? Not me. It's just that Megyn Kelly should be silenced, not me. But you think this whole like, I'm just asking questions, so it doesn't matter the quality of the question or the disingenuousness, illegitimacy, cravenness of the insinuation. Please. She gets less impressive with each passing day. But she's got a big audience, so she must have something important to say. No, not necessarily, it turns out. How ironic. 11 of cell phones were accounts originated in Israel. Gee, what she's trying to insinuate there. And so your point is what? Andrew Colvett turns over all the information because that side and the Kirk family has erred on the side of complete transparency so as to not give fodder for reckless conspiracy theorists like Candace Owens and their apologists like Megyn Kelly. It's disgraceful. The quality of the intellectual offerings from these people that have, I don't know, infiltrated the minds of their audiences, whatever those audiences look like. So unimpressive. Evidence-free spouting off. That's conservatism. That's journalism, since Megyn Kelly, I think, still considers herself some kind of half-assed journalist. Robert, Bloomingdale.
Good morning, Dan. Well, this is not a conspiracy theory. Just look at what was done at the crime scene. At the booth, they took the tent down. They took that whole thing apart within hours of Charlie getting killed. That should have been preserved. They were taking cameras down while this is not conspiracy.
No, I know, Robert. Yourself. Yeah, thank you, Robert. Noted criminologist Robert from Bloomingdale. Thank you so much for providing the example. You know, it's a real simple question for people like Robert to ask. I wish I had more time to really give Robert the ear cleaning that he deserves. Simple question, though. Just pour it over if you have the mental acuity to do so. All these lies that Candace Owens has told and insinuations that have been platformed by others, why isn't the defense presenting any of them? Are they in on it, too? It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
They want revenge. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump is warned by Israel Iran had a new plan to kill him as revenge for the death of a top Iranian general in 2020 and now the death of Iran's supreme leader in airstrikes in February.
The Wall Street Journal had first reported on the plot, saying Israel shared new intelligence with the U.S. that it said indicated a fresh Iranian plan to kill President Trump. Iran for years has vowed openly to retaliate against Trump for the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are split on how to proceed with the conflict, with Netanyahu pushing for more military pressure on Tehran. This report comes as people gathering for Ayatollah Khamenei's burial ceremony in Iran Thursday promised revenge against President Trump. One banner read, "We will kill Trump."
Fox's Madeline Rivera. Several Democrats are lining up to replace Graham Plattner as the party's Senate nominee in Maine. Now that he's dropped out, the state party plans a convention to choose one.
Troy Jackson, the former state Senate president, moving quickly to claim Plattner's populist mantle. Of course, he is in the running, as is Nirav Shah, the former state health director, Dan Kleben, the 49-year-old co-owner of the microbrewery Maine Beer Company, Jordan Wood, former congressional staffer, and Paige Loud, a social worker, political newcomer, and former Plattner campaign worker.
Fox's Kevin Corke. There's also Maine Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, former Maine and Maryland state and federal official David Costello, and state rep Valley Geiger. 9 days after the primary in Colorado, Victor Marx has declared the Republican nominee for governor in a close race, saying in a social media video about his opponent, Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser.
He's a smart fella, but he represents the current system because he is part of it.
Marx is a Christian missionary leader, author, and Marine Corps veteran. Homeland Security says that immigration agents who shot and killed a man in Houston Tuesday were looking for someone else. America's listening to Fox News.
6:02 in Chicago. A little fog out there this morning and clouds and sunshine for your morning commute. Later today, we'll hit a high of 82. An Illinois ban on some semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacities will likely now head to the U.S. Supreme Court. On Thursday, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals reversed a district court decision from Southern Illinois that found Illinois' ban unconstitutional. Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director Richard Pearson expressed optimism that the case will go all the way to the High Court.
We have mountains of evidence. I think somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 pages of evidence upholding our position.
Supporters of gun control laws praise the appellate court decision. Federal judge says the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Illinois, Andrew Boutros, violated her secrecy order in a Tren de Aragua gang murder and kidnapping case. He reportedly defied, according to Justice Laura McAnally, her instructions to keep names and photos of two defendants hidden from the public. The judge gave Boutros a tongue lashing, but stopped short of issuing any sanctions. A second teen is accused of taking part in a quadruple shooting more than 2 years ago that left several dead on Chicago's South Side. A 16-year-old has been charged with murder, attempted murder, and robbery armed with a firearm. The boy was accused of taking part in the shooting in February of 24, arrested yesterday in Chicago. The Milwaukee County Executive formally endorses Sarah Rodriguez for governor of Wisconsin. David Crowley left the race and then told reporters yesterday he'll back the lieutenant governor in next month's Democrat primary in that case, saying she is the top candidate to take down surging Republican Tom Tiffany in November. Chicago sports. Cubs fell to the Orioles 3-2. White Sox swept out by the Red Sox 2-1. By the way, White Sox fans, Mooney Murakami is expected back in the lineup tonight. The Sluggers finished his rehab appearances with AAA Charlotte. The news, a service of Allstate. Wish you could save on home insurance with Allstate. You could easily save and get quality protection. It's a win-win. What are you waiting for? Check Allstate first. You're in good hands with Allstate. A check on the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by LeavingIL.com and by Unique Wooden Flags. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Sean Thompson here. Recently, someone asked me, what is it that I love most about being on AM 560 The Answer? I didn't hesitate. I love the fact that AM 560 is a family. You, the listeners, our advertisers, and all of us who are on air make up one big family in a very bad place. We look out for each other because we share the same values. And so many of our advertisers are small and medium businesses. They're owners who work very hard, they play by the rules, they pay their taxes, they make their communities even stronger. If that describes you and you own or operate a business, then I want to invite you to consider working with AM 560 to market your business. If you want to reach AM 560 family members, whether through radio, live events, or digital marketing, then call Amy O'Toole. She's a wonderful girl. She's in charge of advertising around here. Call her at 847-472-8925. That's 847-472-8925. Find out how you can become part of the AM 560 family. Together, our family can truly help make America great again.
Shh, here she comes. Surprise! They sent a duplicate shipment to your flower shop. Now you have to pay for 1,000 extra carnations. Also, there's a beehive outside your store, and they're super aggressive. There's thousands of them.
Progressive knows small business owners usually don't like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise, saving 10% or more on commercial auto insurance when you pay in full.
Also, the egg salad you just ate was expired. Gross.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Nearly 1 in 10 Americans don't fall asleep in a bed. Can you relate? Do you live with one of them? Blissfully unaware how much stress that old, worn-out, ugly recliner is putting on the body? You need rest and recovery. You need a Z-Cliner. Designed and engineered for sleeping with built-in heat and massage. It means all-day comfort and, finally, a good night's sleep. Don't waste another night when you could be this comfortable. Visit zcliner.com to find a retailer near you. The Z's are waiting.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-921-5252. That's 800-921-5252. 800-921-5252.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
.608, 70 degrees. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg traffic center time. Tri-State, you've got delays, slow traffic northbound right at the Reagan I-88. A slow ramp to the inbound Dan Ryan is gumming up the Stevenson inbound between Ashland Avenue and the Dan Ryan. Traffic, a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you. 56david.com, 855-563-2843. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 613114. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, a check of your weather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect patchy fog in the morning, leading to reduced visibility. The day will be humid with a mix of clouds and sunshine, reaching a high of 81. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 65. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Interesting commentary posted on X by a guy whose handle is WG Morrow. He was, according to his profile, 19D vet, meaning cavalry scout. So that's just his background. Why the qualified stay at home? He's getting at this question of why do we have a kakistocracy? Increasingly. Why are we ruled by our lessers? Across the political spectrum. As I've often said about the Illinois General Assembly, the odds are like at the level of the lottery that you could put together in two bodies that combined have 177 people, that you could put together 177 people so collectively untalented, uninspiring, cowardly, and yet we do it cycle after cycle in Illinois, which is why this is a failed state in part. And that includes the constitutional officers, too. You rope them in. It includes the federal delegation, congressional delegation, loop them in. Why the qualified stay home is his piece. There's a question that keeps coming up at kitchen tables, online, at union reunions, back home, and the back rooms of VFW halls, and nobody ever answers it honestly. Why do people most qualified to hold public office, the veterans, the engineers, the surgeons, the men and women who have actually built something and buried someone, why do they refuse to run? Why do the loudest voices in our politics, the ones who arrive at Washington at 29 with a comms degree and a following, seem to have no doubt at all that they belong there? Well, they look around and they say, yeah, this looks like about my skill level. The easy answers are money, media, and the ugliness of the arena. All true, none of them the real answer. The real answer is a difference in how the two sides measure themselves. A Green Beret or Ranger who did 4 combat rotations knows exactly what a competent man looks like because he served next to one, and under one, and buried 2. He knows the team sergeant who could read terrain the way other men read a book, the warrant officer who kept a broken airframe flying on prayer and safety wire, the battalion commander who made the right call at 0300 with incomplete information and lived with those who didn't come back. When that Green Beret or Ranger considers running for Congress, he does not measure himself against the current occupant of the seat. He measures himself against the men he served with, and he thinks, honestly, I'm not the most qualified man I know. Bill should do it, or Tom, or the Colonel, not me. This is not humility as a pose, it is humility as arithmetic. He has a large sample size of excellence, and he ranks himself inside it accurately. On the other side, the staffer on the other side has a different sample. She has never been outranked by someone genuinely better. Her professors praised her, her internships confirmed her, her feed reflects her. She has never stood in front of someone who could do her job 3 times better because she has never held a job with a hard, physical, unforgiving metric attached. When she considers running, she measures herself against the current occupant and thinks, I could do that. And she's not entirely wrong. The bar in that room is not high, but she has no framework for understanding what a high bar even looks like. This is the asymmetry. One side knows too many good people to feel qualified. The other has never met anyone better than themselves, so they feel qualified by default. That's such a great insight. It's really true. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text. I mean, when I decided to run for governor back 17 years ago, because I guess I announced in 2009, as just like a, relatively unknown political operative. I mean, I was doing, work on Don Wade and Roma's show, but I mean, that's not much profile. I mean, even in market, much less statewide. When I decided, number one, I was upset by the fecklessness of the Republican Party, which, of course, has just increased exponentially since. But number two, I looked around and I said, Kirk Dillard and Bill Brady and some of these other people, I'm like, no. I mean, I may not be the most qualified guy in the state, but if nobody that I look to and say that's a guy who should be governor, that's somebody who's really qualified, certainly more qualified than me. Nobody. If I look at this cadre of the usual suspects, I say, well, I can do better than they do. It's like trying out for a team. I can run as fast as that guy. I got as good as hands as that guy. I might as well try out. So that really was the level of calculation. Maybe I should have deepened my calculus, but regardless, that's what it was, and that's what he's describing. One side knows too many good people to feel qualified. The other side has never met anyone better than themselves, so they feel qualified by default. Then comes a second-order problem. The Green Beret, Ranger, the surgeon, the man who ran the plant for 30 years has something to lose. A reputation built over decades, a family that has already given enough, a pension that took a career to earn, a clearance. He watches what happens to a man who runs and tells the truth, and he sees the machine come for his taxes, his marriage, his kids, his old deployments, his medical file. He sees them go after his wife. He runs the calculus the way he was trained to, mission, cost, probability, and concludes that the cost to his family exceeds the probable good he can do from one seat in a body of 435. The 29-year-old carries none of that weight. No reputation to lose, no career to interrupt, no wife who has already spent 9 months of the year alone, nothing on the medical file, nothing in the background check a hostile committee could hang him with. Although that's not necessarily true, as we've seen. He is optimized for the run the way a fighter is optimized for the fight. No ballast, no obligations, no history. And the party machinery on that side has learned to recruit exactly this profile because it is cheap to run and easy to control. So the seats fill with people willing to sit in them, not the people who ought to. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. He goes on to offer a fix. The men and women who know they are not the most qualified, they know they are not the most qualified person they know, have to go find that person and put him forward. The ranger who won't run needs to walk into the colonel's kitchen and tell him it's time. The surgeon who won't run needs to fund the engineer who will. The shortage is not of qualified people on the right. The shortage is that a culture built on humility and competence, one that assumes the best man will be recognized on his merits, is losing to a culture that makes no such assumption and simply nominates itself. The country does not get the leaders it deserves. It gets the leaders who show up. Maybe. Right now, the wrong people are the only ones showing up because the right people are still measuring themselves honestly against the men they served with and finding themselves wanting. They are not wanting. They are needed. And the mirror they are using was calibrated in a harder school than the one their opponents ever attended. He goes on to say in the comments, you are all on notice. This is aimed directly at each and every one of you guys. Repost it and share up your chain of command, or with your followers. We have to do better. Yeah, although I will say, from my own experience, mainly in Illinois, that that is easier said than done. Of course, because there's not ready-made infrastructure. I mean, in some places or some places it's more built out than in other places, but there's not ready-made infrastructure for that. And when in states where there isn't the infrastructure, in states that have failed because the opposition party, meaning the Republican Party, has essentially self-immolated, there is no mechanism for recruitment and a ready-made development. There's not even interest, even by people who are otherwise the right man or woman. There's not even interest among those to participate if they looked at and said, this is the right man or the right woman for the job. In other words, so talent presents itself, is ignored or attacked, is left to wither on the battlefield alone. And so that's hardly an encouraging model from people on the outside watching. And this is particularly true where for generations you've had top-down control of the opposition party, as it was the case in the Republican Party until George Ryan's implosion, where talent was told to wait their turn. There was not an effort to recruit talent. There was essentially a Republican version of a Politburo that would tell you when it was your time to run and for what. And they had, the institutional heft because of Republican control of state government and the donor networks, the infrastructure that is often referenced, to back up those power plays. It was tougher. Ironically, when that implosion occurred, you would think it would have been easier because you no longer had the barriers to entry, but then it became warlordocracy. And you still had remnants of the establishment trying to front like they still had power they no longer had, but conservative grassroots wasn't organized enough. There was a lot of infighting. There wasn't sort of the anonymous infrastructure building to platform talent that, frankly, the DSA and these neo-Bolsheviks have built over the last, certainly in the Trump era. And I think it's expanded greatly with the return of Trump, because that's been the fuel for the DSA and these neo-Bolshevik organizations to align themselves, at least for the moment, against the party's establishment, who they blame for allowing Trump back in. And so that establishment, that the first revolution that needs to happen is throwing out their party, the party to which they affiliate out of convenience, throwing out that leadership. Then we'll get to a revolution against the founding of the country, which is their ultimate aim. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, and many qualified people look at this and they say, you know what? This system is corrupt. These people are bought and paid for. How am I going to go in there? Do I want to be part of that? And they look at it and they say, no, because I'm not going to be part of that system. And the other thing is, I think Congress is most effective when there's gridlock, when they do nothing, because the things that they do are not good. So they say to themselves, I don't want to be part of this.
Thanks for the call, Bill. Well, this is an experiment in self-governance. So, again, the reasons that I mentioned, that he mentions in his piece, are all there. So then what's the response? Just abdication and hope as a strategy? I hope some good people step up. I hope some people put in the fight. And I'll just sit around and wait. I mean, to his point, both the first and second order problems that he identifies, I think, very succinctly. There's always an opportunity for everyone to do something. And so if you don't think you're the guy or gal, then go find one and back one. You can do that. Tom in Blue Island.
Hey, Jay, good morning. To Bill's point, I believe gridlock was intended. There's no phrase I hear more from politicians that I hate than when they say we're not getting anything done, or we're going to get. Their job isn't to get things done unless there's a reason for it. And the whole idea of the 2 years was you did 2 years and went home, right, Dan? And then so ostensibly for the representatives and for the senators, the 6 years and you went home. So it seems to me that the piece that you're referencing is congruent with what the intentions of the founders were. It wasn't intended to be a lifetime job. That's the bastardization that these politicians have put our government through.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but that's a position. That's not a plan. The other side has a plan. Some interesting pieces this week from former DSA types. Evan Barker writing over at Free Press. My former colleagues are destroying the Democratic Party. Yeah. Destroying it. Revolutionizing it. From 2018 to 2023, I was a Dem operative working for a slew of progressive candidates. I taught DSA-aligned staffers how to build a money machine for the left, coached progressive Pauls on how to speak to donors, collaborated with billionaires to create a robust fundraising network. He's got a book upcoming. We're going to get him on the show, talk about this in more detail. In 2024, I decided to leave the party, disillusioned by a leadership class that I had watched drift further and further from the working class Americans they purportedly represented. Yeah, real surprise. I mean, these kids don't know anything, starting with history. This is every revolutionary totalitarian movement. We represent the middle class, but you don't. That's not what it is. You know, Daralisa Chevalier, she lost the actual, middle income, lower middle to middle income working families in the Bronx. She lost that by 30 points, that group by 30 points. She won all of the young white-collar apparatchiks who've bought into identitarian politics, who, to the point of the piece I was reading from W.G. Morrow, have no stake and no record and no sense. Well, the middle-income family in the Bronx has a job and a wife and a mortgage and kids. He doesn't have the same margin of error for dalliances with fashionable political beliefs. It's the same thing that was happening with Plantner in Maine. He was getting crushed by Susan Collins among the people he said he was running to represent, but that's just a front. I mean, as this guy goes through it, but what he's saying is this is not stopping. If people, and we've been talking about this too, like New York, Chicago, big cities, they're collapsing from the inside. This is the only place that these people. Yeah. So they used to say just about standard issue Democrats in Chicagoland, and then we lost all the collar counties. Just about. I mean, McHenry's still hanging on again, off again, but DuPage County went from 72% for George Ryan in 1998 to for Obama both times, and every Dem presidential candidate since. Not to mention who's actually representing DuPage County in the General Assembly, representing at the local level. No, it'll just stay in the city. We'll just get out. It won't follow us. Right. The establishment had all kinds of tricks to keep us at bay, writes this former DSA op. They tell donors not to give us money. They recruit candidates to run against progressives. I remember feeling immensely angry and bitter. But while that was designed to intimidate operatives like me from helping progressive insurgents, it backfired. By isolating us from the party's infrastructure, forced us to build our own. We trained each other, we recruited our own donors to back us, and we created an extremely strong network of groups and consultants to elect far-left candidates. We tried to do that here in Illinois between 2012 and 2020. I was a part of it. I would do some things differently than we did. and I'd listen to some people or deal with some people differently than I did on our side. But this is the opportunity the establishment presented, and the DSA has taken advantage of it. Donor networks like Way to Win, for example, promote far-left campaigns at their conferences via email lists. The wealthy Soros family has backed some of the most incendiary squad members and causes. Meanwhile, the very same operatives involved in earlier iterations of the squad now have a decade of experience. They are not the quote-unquote crazy activists you see fighting online. They're highly competent, skilled, and for the most part, keep a low profile. They've built an entire ecosystem that runs parallel to the official Democratic apparatus, equipped with their own consultant network, endorsing organizations, donors, and yes, billionaires who back them. This is not a right-wing conspiracy. I have the receipts. And the great irony dawned on him, which is when he bolted. Socialist movements aren't composed of working class. They're children of lawyers, professors, donors, and NGO directors who grew up with an incredible amount of privilege. So too are many of their voters. Yes, exactly. Always, every time, everywhere. But he's saying it. There's a piece by Jake Altman over at City Journal. I watched the DSA go crazy. The Democrats may be next. He's saying a version of the same thing. Oh, it's just going to be a couple of congresswomen in big metropolitan areas. Not if that's the approach that we take to it. Not if we don't heed at least some of what W.G. Morrow had to say in his distillation of why qualified people aren't running, much less winning, generally speaking. And that includes on the right, or the so-called right.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Why is it so important to rotate your tires?
To prevent wear and prolong your tire's life.
Exactly. So shouldn't you be doing the same with your mattress?
Absolutely.
Except
what?
Most of the mattresses sold today are not double-sided.
Ah, but the mattresses at Penny Mustard are.
Our exclusive double-sided hybrid mattresses combine a steel coil center and specialty foam.
So they're more breathable.
And more long-livable.
In fact, Penny Mustard's double-sided, made in Wisconsin hybrid mattresses have been proven to last 45% longer than the average unflippable model.
You know, tires and mattresses have a lot in common.
How so?
Both spend their lives under pressure.
Okay.
They're the two most important things between you and the ground.
Sure.
And if they wear out,
yeah,
you feel every bump.
Come see our selection of sophisticrafted, double-sided hybrid mattresses at Penny Mustard.
Find a showroom near you at pennymustard.com.
Flippable versions of what people want.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 6:36, Scott Atlas. Remember him? Dr. Scott Atlas. Good commentary on the selfie generation. We'll tackle that after we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
6:34 in Chicago, 70 degrees, some fog, and reduced visibility in the area. Israel recently spoke to the United States about Iran allegedly planning to assassinate President Trump. Details this morning in Washington with Fox's Madeline Rivera.
The Wall Street Journal had first reported on the plot, saying Israel shared new intelligence with the U.S. that it said indicated a fresh Iranian plan to kill President Trump, a finding that would mark an escalation in the war between Washington and Iran. Iran for years has vowed openly to retaliate against Trump for the assassination of Qasem Soleimani. So remember, this intelligence reportedly came from Israel. And remember, President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are split on how to proceed with the conflict, with Netanyahu pushing for more military pressure on Tehran. This report comes as people gathering for Ayatollah Khamenei's burial ceremony in Iran Thursday promised revenge against President Trump. One banner read, "We will kill Trump."
Iran publicly vowed for years to retaliate after the death of the former commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Quds Force in Baghdad in 2020. More than a week after the vote, Marine Corps veteran Victor Marx declared winner of the Republican primary for Colorado governor on Thursday. Colorado has not elected a Republican as governor in more than 2 decades.
He's a smart fella, but he represents the current system because he is part of it. And that current system has made Colorado more expensive, less safe, and harder for regular families to trust government.
Mark's thanking supporters, saying his Democrat candidate Phil Weiser is going to be tough. An Illinois ban on some semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacities is likely now headed for the U.S. Supreme Court after Thursday. The 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals reversed a federal district court decision that found the Illinois ban unconstitutional. Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director Richard Pearson expressed optimism the case will go up to the high court.
Well, I think so, yes. I think we're getting to that point. We already have Viramontes up there, which is the Cook County case.
A suspect wanted in a Chicago homicide case was arrested after a police chase that ended in a major rollover crash in Los Angeles. The pursuit involved L.A. Police Department officers following a vehicle through the streets of Hollywood before the driver crashed. Additional details about the homicide investigation and the suspect's condition have not been made immediately available. Cubs lost to the Orioles. White Sox swept out by the Red Sox after a 2-1 loss at home. NBA Summer League rolls on in Las Vegas. The Bulls start the exhibition slate tonight against the Grizzlies. The news service of Woodland Windows and Doors see Marvin products in their beautiful showroom at the corner of Lake and Gary and Roselle, or visit woodlandwindows.com for a free in-home expert consultation. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Larry Elder doesn't hear anything from the Democrats.
When people get elected who are members of the Democrat Socialists of America, when you have people denouncing capitalism and promoting socialism, free buses, free health care, free housing, national rent control. Have you heard anybody in the Democratic Party other than John Fetterman push back? Look in the mirror.
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Have you been watching gold and silver lately? Hard to ignore. Back in January of 2025, silver was under $30 an ounce, and now it's more than doubled. Again, not bad, right? Some experts say this bull market is just getting started. Others say it's a good time to take some money off the table. Either way, whether you're buying or selling, Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is the place to go. They stock large quantities of all the major bullion coins and bars. And here's what sets them apart. Unlike places that only pay melt value, Fox Valley Coins pays more for high-grade coins and scarcer dates. That's real money left in your pocket. They also buy scrap sterling flatware, jewelry, silver-plated items, and old proof sets. And they specialize in U.S. and foreign collector and investment coins and currency, both buying and selling. Fox Valley Coins, one light north of I-88 on Route 59 at Ferry Road in Naperville. Family owned with integrity since 1981.
Hey, I'm Kirk Cameron. Is health insurance eating up your budget for 2026? If you're looking for ways to better steward your finances, consider this: Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's a health insurance alternative at half the cost. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. While insurance companies tell you when to join, what to pay, and where to go, CHM is different. As a ministry, CHM allows you to share the burden of medical bills with other Christians. You can enroll, switch programs, or leave at any time. Christian Healthcare Ministries. It's a world of difference. CHM has 4 flexible programs. You can pick any certified doctor, surgeon, or hospital that you want for eligible care. So make the switch. Take your paycheck back from health insurance this year. Join CHM today by visiting chministries.org/wellness. That's chministries.org/wellness.
Foundations of Freedom, a look at America's founding principles and the leaders who shaped our nation.
When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, America stood on the edge of collapse. Over the next 4 years, the Civil War claimed more than 700,000 lives and tested whether our republic could endure. As the war drew to a close, Lincoln looked beyond victory. He looked toward healing. In his second inaugural address, he challenged the nation. Let us strive on to bind up the nation's wounds, to achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace. Lincoln understood that preserving the greatest experiment in self-government required more than winning a war. It required the character to restore what had been broken. More than 160 years later, America still faces division. The question is not whether we'll disagree. The question is whether we still have the wisdom and the character to heal together.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
641 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Wooddale, an accident. Potter and Addison Road. Naperville, Route 59 northbound before North Aurora Road. Accident under the Metro tracks. It's down to one lane through that area. Stop and go traffic on the Tri-State northbound between Roosevelt and the Ike. Traffic, a service of Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles on every purchase with the Capital One Venture X business card. Big purchasing power means you can spend more and earn more. Capital One Venture X business card. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, check of your weather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Clouds and sun this morning, patchy fog. Later today, a high of 82.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Goldilocks, offering 24/7 security solutions for homes and businesses. Call them today at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios.
I am a real American. Fight for the rights of every man. I am a real American. Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, our new Real American segment. They're not household names, but they build stable households that endured. Didn't necessarily live showy lives, but they showed others how to live. They've been making America great for 250 years and soliciting the stories, the recommendations of people whose stories should be told from our listeners, preferably with a connection to the Chicagoland area, of course. Before we get to a couple of news stories we have, Scott Atlas tells his story succinctly. Op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Scott Atlas, Dr. Scott Atlas, you know, the guy who should have been brought on long before he was during COVID by President Trump. Long before he was. Once Fauci and Birx revealed themselves. But I digress. He writes, my story isn't unique. All four of my grandparents came to this country in the early 20th century from England, Poland, and Russia with nothing, less than nothing. No money, no connections, no guarantees. They all learned English on their own and spoke it fluently, not because they were required, but because they were proud to do so. They had immigrated to become Americans. That was the whole point. The reason this story is particularly relevant, especially for this segment, is because so many of the stories that we've been receiving are about this generation that came to America for opportunity. The point was to become an American and take advantage of the opportunities that this land of liberty offers. And that's something that seems to be atrophying. And we're not just talking about with millennials and Gen Z. Back to Atlas. Love for this country ran in the family. When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, the 17-year-old who would become my father lied about his age to enlist in the Marines. For the men of his generation, that was the gut reaction. And yet today, polls show a majority of Democrats say they aren't proud to be American. Only 1 in 3 are. Scott Atlas, I got my education with the help of a part-time pizza delivery job, merit scholarships, and loans. Loans I was thrilled to take and proud to pay back in full. That's how opportunity was supposed to work. You reached for it, you used it, and you honored the obligation. I became a physician, then a professor and chief of neuroradiology at Stanford, and eventually a senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. By many measures, I joined the so-called elite, but I've always been the outsider in those rooms because most of my colleagues grew up with educated parents, affluent households, and connections. I didn't. The difference shapes whether you see success as an entitlement or as yours to create. And there's a but. But my generation, the baby boomers, made a catastrophic mistake. We watched our parents sacrifice, we struggled to move up, and we vowed our children would have it easier. When that time came, we gave them trophies for showing up. We meant well. But in freeing them of the need to struggle, we deprived them of something essential. We raised a generation insulated from failure, from consequence, from the experience of working for something, failing, and trying again. The result is visible in major American cities where young voters are electing socialist candidates who spew hatred of those who achieve greatness. These movements aren't about creating opportunity. They're about grievance, redistribution, and the conviction that your own failures are the result of someone else's success. It's a politics of envy dressed up as justice. We know this. And by the way, it's not just young voters electing socialist candidates. It's not just young voters with no job history and no money. The bartender with the Boston University liberal arts degree. It's not just them. The baby boomers' offspring are Gen X. So all this talk about millennials and Gen Z, yeah, what about Gen X and the kids they raised? Those are the ones on the streets for Daria Lisa and Zoran and Dalia Ramirez in this state and so forth. What about them? So it's people that do have job history and a stake in the game and a nice life in the suburbs or in the safer neighborhoods in the cities that are electing these people too. I mean, let's get real. Back to Atlas. The hallmark of today's young generation, and this is also not just the young generation. When he says young, I'm taking that to mean everyone younger than baby boomers, because that's what he's describing. This is as true of a 55-year-old as it is a 25-year-old, what I'm about to read. The hallmark of today's young generation is the selfie, a photo of yourself taken and posted for the approval of others. That says everything. And when the world doesn't deliver the validation young people have been told they deserve simply for existing, the explanation is always the same. The system is rigged, the deck is stacked, someone else has too much. Well, that's what people who have a lot are doing too in generations younger than the baby boomers. They may not be looking for the validation the same way a 25-year-old is, but they're still part of that program, and it's a problem. They folded into this selfie culture. Atlas writes, my grandparents never asked whether the deck was stacked. A great line. Of course they had disadvantages. They were dirt poor immigrants who spoke no English in a new country. They built anyway. The appeal of socialism to young Americans, again, I keep saying it, under baby boomer, young Americans, people my age, down. The appeal isn't about economics. It's about having someone else to blame. When you haven't succeeded after being given every advantage, it's easier to claim the system is unfair than to admit personal failure. Yeah. Well, that's why these stories that we're telling, thanks to the listeners who are submitting them, are so important. I hope they're shared and instructive. And don't just share them with me, my little show. Share them with, all those in your age cohort or younger, anybody who's not a baby boomer. I mean, you can share with the baby boomers too, because they should recognize the massive mistake they made that Scott Atlas details, and start talking to their kids and grandkids about knocking it off, to borrow a phrase from my childhood. Two stories. Major Robert Panonessa, my uncle and godfather. This is from Bill Gallagher out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah, now. Major Robert Panonessa, my uncle and godfather, grew up on the south side of 65th and Blackstone, the eldest four brothers. When it came time for him to go to high school, he responded to a program sponsored by the U.S. Army to learn Russian in a total immersion school. He went on to become a career Army officer stationed all over the world. He and my Aunt Bev had 6 children, each born in a different country. The defining moment of his life came in 1963. He was the commanding officer at Checkpoint Charlie in Berlin as the wall was completed. When the East Germans realized that they were suddenly imprisoned, many tried to escape by climbing over the wall. The border guards shot them all, and their bodies would fall on the western side of the wall, tangled in the barbed wire. He saved the ones he could, but he ordered that the rest would be left hanging there as a testament to the evil of communism. He only lived to the age of 55, but this ordinary kid from the South Side was extraordinary. He was the embodiment of strength, honor, and faith. He served God, his country, and his family with honor and distinction, and he inspires me to this day to emulate him in my everyday life. Great. Awesome. This one submitted by Jim Hlavin. I'd like to submit the name of my next-door neighbor when I was growing up in Western Springs some 50 years ago. And Jim is, by the way, a fellow Bennett grad. I'd like to submit the name of my next-door neighbor when I was growing up in Western Springs 50 years ago, Robert Jim Hartnett, or as I respectfully called him then through my childhood, and even now it would seem Mr. Hartnett, because that's how he refers to him in the entirety of this. Talk about, how you learn respect and you just, that doesn't leave you because this is somebody you were told to respect and then you bought into as why. Mr. Hartnett served in World War II as a B-17 bomber pilot at the age of 20 years old, responsible for the lives of 10 people in his aircraft. When I think back about what he was doing when I think back what I was doing when I was 20, I just have to chuckle and stand in awe of what he accomplished. As I entered my middle teenage years, Mr. Hartnett evidently must have thought it was time for me to hear some of his war stories so that they would influence my life in a positive way. When I came back home around 9 p.m. most nights after playing basketball during the summer, he would invite me to his patio for a chat. And some of our conversations dealt with his bombing missions and what he experienced during them. It must be noted that only 25% of B-17 airmen survived their missions alive and were able to tell their stories. Only 1 in 4. I didn't know that. His first story dealt with an in-air incident that he had with another plane, this being a B-24 bomber. During a mission when flak from German cannons on the ground was particularly intense, the B-24 was hit and disabled, causing it to barrel roll to the left while losing altitude and eventually flipping upside down. The plane collided with Mr. Hartnett's plane, shearing off its entire tail, eliminating all the control of the plane that the tail flaps enabled. Miraculously, the tail gunner survived due to the fact, as he told Mr. Barnett, that he heard a voice tell him to move out of that position toward the middle of the aircraft no less than 30 seconds before the tail section was obliterated. Without any prior training, Mr. Hartnett was forced to quickly learn how to handle the wounded aircraft. He was a quick study and brought the plane all the way back to its home base without any lives lost. The interesting thing about this is that as a grade schooler, my favorite library book was entitled B-17, The Flying Fortress. And in that book was a picture taken from above a B-17 that had just lost its tail after having been struck by another plane. I often thought that the chances of this being Mr. Hartnett's plane and me seeing it have to be at least 1 in a million. The chances of he and his crew surviving this incident were probably the same, were not for his skill as a pilot and his steely resolve to bring the bomber back home. The second story deals with him having to crash land his plane in enemy territory after it just could not go on. All crew members survived the landing, and they had to plot how they would have to travel so as not to be detected by the enemy. The only weapons they had were pistols. The crew's only encounter with enemy forces was with a group of about 10 German soldiers who ended up surrendering to Mr. Hartnett and his crew, primarily because they did not want to fight anymore, seeing the handwriting on the wall regarding the Allied advance through Western Europe in 1944. Mr. Hartnett, knowing that they could not travel with German soldiers to friendly lines, ordered the German soldiers to leave them alone, threatening to shoot them if they did not do so. The Germans left. The crew eventually made it back to Allied territory without any incidents. The final story involves a harrowing experience where Mr. Hartnett's plane was hit and damaged by German flak. The damage was done in the cockpit area where there was an explosion that briefly knocked Mr. Hartnett out. When he came to, there was a gaping hole next to him he could see through, and his co-pilot was gone. The plane was successfully piloted back to the base. I never pictured Mr. Hartnett as being overly religious, but he was Roman Catholic like me, and he told me he prayed very hard before each pre-flight briefing that his plane would be tucked inside the formation as to be situated on the outside, exposed to the enemy fighter planes was almost certain death. Looks like his prayers were answered. He also said that many times the formation was so tight that there were only a couple of feet between the wingtips of the planes. After hearing all these incredible stories, I asked Mr. Hartnett if he was ever awarded a medal like the Congressional Medal of Honor for saving the lives of his men and battling through incredibly difficult circumstances. He said no, he was not, as there was an expectation that this is what you did and had to do. You just did it. Years later, I researched his service record online and discovered that he received 2 Bronze Stars for valor in battle. I believe the Bronze Star is the 3rd highest award for bravery that can be obtained. True to his character and nature, Mr. Hartnett's humility came through, and he showed me things that are truly important in life. After the war, Mr. Hartnett went on to establish one of the largest court reporting firms in the Chicago area, Hartnett and Catalani. He raised 5 children, one of whom was adopted, and contributed to the well-being of St. John of the Cross Parish, Western Springs. I learned so much from him and consider him, right next to my father, the greatest man I've ever known, and I've known quite a few people. There were so many people like him in that generation, citizen soldiers whom I'd see at community swimming pool without limbs due to participation in the war, and others who had given so much of themselves so that they and others could live in freedom. These people are almost all gone now. Mr. Hartnett passed away in his mid-90s. But what he taught me is everlasting. My takeaway is that a person can have all the values needed for a successful life, but the most important one is courage, as that is the value that activates all of the others and allows them to do their thing. Yes, C.S. Lewis. Without courage, they just remain values sitting on a shelf. Mr. Hartnett had courage in spades and used it to literally save lives and make the world a better place. You can't ask for much more of a person, and he delivered. I'm so grateful to have known Mr. Hartnett and to have received the learning from him that I did.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper, hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following contains a celebrity impersonation.
Mr. President, we're seeing reporting that air conditioning systems are failing as temperatures rise. What is your response?
I said, don't wait. People wait until the last second, then suddenly it's hot and nothing works. I understand this stuff, probably better than anybody.
Mr. President, why hasn't the White House issued any guidance?
I gave perfect guidance. Call Air Right Heating and Cooling. That's the guidance. If people followed it, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Sir, but homeowners have so many HVAC options.
They're not like Air Right. You've got some bad installers out there, some real bad hombres. I wouldn't let them near the White House. It would be a complete disaster.
Mr. President, there are reports of significant rebates on new systems. Can you confirm?
I've heard about them. A lot of people talking about them. If you miss out, you'd have to be really not so smart. Tremendous savings, let me tell you.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling at AIR-RITE.com. Air Right. Doing it right since 1959.
AM 560. The Answer.
Coming up at 7:07, we'll talk to our friend Dr. Zuhdi Jasser about the state of affairs in Iran as the beatings continue until the IRGC's morale improves. And don't forget, it is Friday, so at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, Open Mic Friday, we'll be taking your calls on any topic that your little hearts desire, so don't forget that. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser at 7:07. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
A break in the action. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. The military reports no new airstrikes in Iran or retaliatory attacks targeting neighbors hosting American troops after 2 nights of strikes. New York Times reports Qatari mediators are in talks with both sides to de-escalate.
President Trump still saying the diplomatic channel does still remain open. Israel now sharing intelligence with D.C., showing that Iran has developed a new plot to assassinate President Trump, and there were numerous banners at the Ayatollah's funeral calling for President Trump's death.
Fox's Benjamin Hall. A hearing for a judge to determine whether there's enough evidence to try Tyler Robinson for Charlie Kirk's murder wraps up today in Utah.
Lance Twiggs, the former roommate, romantic partner of Tyler Robinson, described how he confessed to the killing of Charlie Kirk at least 3 times. First, in a handwritten note left the morning of the shooting at their apartment, prosecutors say Robinson wrote, quote, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I took it." In text messages to Twiggs, Robinson said he targeted Kirk because he, quote, "had enough of his hatred." And on the day after the shooting in their apartment, Twiggs said Robinson was going to turn himself in.
Fox's Chanley Painter. A D.C. planning commission gives preliminary approval to President Trump's plan for a 250-foot triumphal arch near Arlington National Cemetery.
Ahead of the vote, dozens of residents voiced opposition to the project, arguing the arch would block views from the cemetery and ruin the D.C. skyline. Final approval could come as soon as September when the commission next meet, but members say they still want information on the arch's violation of the city's height law, restricting how tall structures can be. Administration attorneys have argued the law does not apply to federal buildings. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
And President Trump has pushed out the last 3 members of a bipartisan election commission, firing 2 Democrats with a Republican resigning. The other Republican quit in April. That commission was established in 2003 to set up standards for state voting systems and provide funding for upgrades. America's listening to Fox News.
Partly sunny, 70 degrees in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Good morning, I'm Mike Scott. Clouds and sunshine, some patchy morning fog. Later today, a high of 82. An Illinois ban on some semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacities is likely headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. On Thursday, the 7th District Court of Appeals reversed a federal district court decision that found that Illinois ban unconstitutional. Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director Richard Pearson expressing optimism the case will go all the way to the High Court.
We have mountains of evidence. I think somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 pages of evidence upholding our position.
Supporters of gun control laws praise the appellate court decision. Chicago aldermen rejecting an attempt by Mayor Brandon Johnson to ask voters about attacks on millionaires. City Council's Rules Committee turned down Johnson's proposed non-binding referendum on the November ballot. A second teen is accused of taking part in a quadruple shooting more than 2 years ago that left several dead on Chicago's South Side. A 16-year-old has been charged with murder, attempted murder, and robbery with a firearm. He was arrested yesterday in Chicago. The boy accused of taking part in the shooting in February of 2024. The 117th Race to Mackinac kicks off this morning. Over 260 sailing vessels embarking on a 333-mile journey to Mackinac Island. Kevin Foote directs the race from Chicago.
It looks like that there's going to be a bit of a wind shift on late Saturday, perhaps, and that'll take some time to happen, so there may very well be a dead period. But, you know, it's one of the things that makes this race really cool.
Some breaking college hoops news this morning. Illinois' men's basketball team will take on UConn this coming season. Fighting Illini will battle the Huskies December 4th at the United Center. Cubs lost to the Orioles 3-2. White Sox swept out by the Red Sox with a 2-1 loss. The news is a service of Allstate. Wish you could save on home insurance? With Allstate, you could easily save and get quality protection. So what are you waiting for? It's a win-win. Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by Class A Insurance, owned by Thomas Iacenta.
If you've saved $100,000 or more for retirement, call Steve Shyman today at 833-945-7283. That's 833-WILL-SAVE, 833-WILSAVE. Schedule your no-cost, no-obligation retirement review and make sure your plan is built to protect what you've worked so hard to earn. And don't forget to listen to Steve's show, Protecting Your Assets, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on AM 560. Call now, 833-945-7283.
Shh, here she comes. Surprise! They sent a duplicate shipment to your flower shop. Now you have to pay for 1,000 extra carnations. Also, there's a beehive outside your store, and they're super aggressive. There's thousands of them.
Progressive knows small business owners usually don't like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise, saving 10% or more on commercial auto insurance when you pay in full.
Also, the egg salad you just ate was expired. Gross.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Nearly 1 in 10 Americans don't fall asleep in a bed. Can you relate? Do you live with one of them? Blissfully unaware how much stress that old, worn-out, ugly recliner is putting on the body? You need rest and recovery. You need a Z-Cliner, designed and engineered for sleeping with built-in heat and massage. It means all-day comfort and, finally, a good night's sleep. Don't waste another night when you could be this comfortable. Visit zcliner.com to find a retailer near you. The Z's are waiting.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. What happens when the left plucks a working-class man from obscurity and pushes him for high office? In an era of democratic desperation, mainstream media creates narratives to protect him, even at the expense of their own stated values. Graham Plattner's rise and fall stains all the institutions of the left. Democrats and the media tried to bury or downplay Plattner's checkered past, including his Nazi SS tattoo, his record of disturbing public comments, and his moral depravity. Don't be fooled by the sudden shift in media coverage. Everything that outlets like Axios and the New York Times reports as news today had been reported weeks and months ago by independent media. The Times cooked its own report in early June to protect Plattner. Every elite media outlet perpetuated the working-class lie about a man who lives off his wealthy parents. The insistence by Democrats and the media to make excuses for Plattner exposes the corruption of both. The Nazi tattoo told us all we needed to know. I'm Ed Morrissey.
7:07 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Stop and go traffic on the Stevenson this morning, inbound between Harlem and Kedzie. Stop and go traffic on Lakeshore Drive northbound, Roosevelt to Monroe. Slowdowns on 8094 due to an accident, left center lane blocked. Eastbound 8094 between Kennedy and Burr. And an accident cleanup underway in Zion, Route 173 and Green Bay Road. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Team Hochberg can help you. Visit 56david.com or call 855-563-2843. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, and MLS, 613-114. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, check of your weather forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect patchy fog in the morning, leading to reduced visibility. The day will be humid with a mix of clouds and sunshine, reaching a high of 81. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 65. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling, stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. And some ethnic communities in New York City are not ecstatic about Zohran Mamdani's new map, New York City Immigrant Enclaves. Left out of, the neighborhoods, if you will, are the Irish, the Greeks, the Swedes, the Koreans, the Italians, the Jews. And the Free Press, reporter for the Free Press, went out to talk to some Italian-American residents of New York City about that. Second, third generation immigrants, proud of their heritage, just like anybody else, and everybody should be. That's fine. But being excluded by Mamdani and company.
Mayor Mamdani, I give you a year. You are not a New Yorker. You have no clue.
I'm Isabella Reggi, and today we are here in Little Italy asking the locals how they feel about one of the oldest immigrant communities, Little Italy, not being included on Mayor Mamdani's Immigrant Enclave map.
I don't consider you to be my mayor.
I think it's disgraceful for what he's doing. He's got to be fair to everybody, and he's not fair to everybody. He's not fair to the Jewish people, which he makes everybody notice he's not fair to the Jewish people. He's not fair to the Irish people. And now he hates the Italians. For what reason? What do we do to him that he should hate us? They always sort of pushed us to the side. I got it, yeah. In other words, Little Italy, they take care of their own problems. And we're always pushed aside. And I think it's about time that we have to be firm about this. Otherwise, we'll totally be forgotten.
If you understand what took place here over 100 years ago, between 1880 and 1920, when the mass migration of Italian immigrants first came. This was the stepping stone for the Italians.
Well, the Bari family came here 120 years ago from Sicily. They were immigrants. They landed down in what's known as the Five Points. Grandma started the San Gennaro Festival. That right up there, that is Grandma. That is Grandma. Grandma from the Bari family. Okay, she is the heart and soul of this neighborhood.
My grandfather was on the Society of St. Gennaro, which happens to be this year 100 years. So it means a lot to me, Little Italy,
There's no such thing as left or right down here. Both sides of the street are beautiful.
And what makes New York City such a special place is a collage of many different cultures. People from all over the world come here and settle. And they need to be recognized for the contributions that they brought to this wonderful country.
Well, yeah, that's not the position of Mamdani and company. I don't know how to break it to you, much like we've seen. It's not the position of a Mayor Triple Threat or BLM Brandon here in Chicago. Please see the disappearance of the Columbus statue and so many other illustrations. Not their position. Here's their position, as nicely articulated by the young apparatchiks who comprise the Socialism and Liberation Party based in San Francisco, a partner organization to the DSA.
We're excited to have each and every one of you to join us for this important discussion about what socialism is, the history of socialism, and what a socialist revolution could look like in the United States. Because the main thing that we talk to with all members, with the Action Network, and with our communities is how do we actually achieve it?
A foundational step in the socialist reconstruction of society would be the creation of a new constitution. The new socialist government will take possession of all the existing capitalist banks and create one People's Development Bank. The Electoral College would be abolished. The House of Representatives could be replaced with the National People's Assembly that would not only be made up of delegates elected from local election districts, but would also include delegates from the many mass organizations of millions of workers, students, and more. And the Senate could be replaced by the Assembly of Oppressed Nations to correct the historic injustices imposed on the indigenous peoples and the Black nation. This Assembly of Oppressed Nations will consist of delegates from oppressed nationalities and peoples. The reorganization of society, including the transition of society to green technology and renewable energy, will be carried out by the people themselves.
It's an exciting program, isn't it? Yeah, abolish the Electoral College. The House becomes the National People's Assembly. The Senate becomes the Assembly of Oppressed Nations. And you'll have delegates from designated oppressed minority groups. Sorry, Irish, Italians, Greeks, Swedes, Jews not included. You're with us other nondescript honkies. Sorry. It's all fun and games until you have people like that getting elected to the halls of power. At Gracie Mansion, United States Congress. I wonder if Abdul El Sayed in Michigan, the leading candidate for Senate there, would agree that the Senate would be better reorganized as an assembly of oppressed nations. No, but it's just happening in the big cities. Oh, it's just kids going through a phase. I don't think so. For more on this and related matters, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, co-founder of the Muslim Reform Movement, former U.S. Navy lieutenant commander, and Republican candidate for Congress in Arizona 4. He's also, as Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, he's a medical doctor. Dr. Jasser, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's great to be with you, Dan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, yeah, this sort of third worldism that we're talking a little bit more about, fanonists like Mamdani. They do have a program, and now they're increasingly in positions to execute the program, and it comes as a great shock and disappointment to people who have been paying attention, like New Yorkers.
Yeah, it's actually much more simple than folks think this is, trying to figure out how New York City got taken over right at ground zero and scratching their head that this came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. Obama's call to Mamdani congratulating him was anointing him as sort of the heir apparent of the next phase of the Democratic Party, which is socialism, extreme far leftism, and this society that, patient zero of it was President Obama, who decided to create not a racially blind society, but one defined by grievances, defined by victimology, and rather than about Americanism. And the greatest conflict ideologically today in the world is this red-green axis versus Americanism, if you want to call it the blue-gold axis of free markets and Western exceptionalism, American exceptionalism. And if you saw Mamdani's speech on July 4th, not only was it offensive as an American and as a former Navy officer, but this is a guy who, you've got the military component of anti-Americanism from Iran to Hamas and other radicals that use asymmetric warfare against us. And then you've got the civilizational jihadists that come in and insinuate themselves and begin to convince a certain segment of our population, the far left, that America is the problem, that Americanism, which means that, as Martin Luther King said, we don't judge folks by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. And that doesn't seem to be about a ideology that they want to cherish on the left. And Mamdani is the front of that. It's about jihadism. It's about globalism and destroying the very idea of America. Ellis Island is in the city he's supposed to be, the history's in his city, and yet he wants to completely obliterate the immigrant ideology that my parents as Syrians came here and felt American the minute they got here, because finally they could vision the American dream and what hope was.
So where does Islamism fit into that? Because it is worth noting that there is this feature here among so many of these candidates, many of whom have been successful, of essentially, they didn't use this phrase, but essentially what it is, they're from developing countries, and they blame America as the great colonizer, even though that's not true. We actually haven't even acquired any new land since 1898. But anyway, I digress. The America is the great Satan. It's a colonizer. And so they're going to colonize the colonizer in sort of developing world fashion. There seems to be a real feature here of that is more specific than sort of just general identitarian politics. So much so that, just sticking on Mamdani as an example of this, a top official in his administration, his Office for International Affairs, made plans to meet with Iran's ambassador and permanent representative to the UN until the State Department interceded and said, no, you're not.
Exactly. If you look at the Iranian Revolution in 1979, you had people that wanted to get rid of a dictator, the Shah. They had legitimate grievances for freedom and liberty, and they got sold this bill of goods that Islam was somehow going to save them. And ultimately, within 2 months of the revolution, if you look at books written since that time that talk about the cab drivers and others that were getting tapes from France of Khomeini talking about the rise of Islam and this bringing back righteousness, within 2 months they realized they bought into theocracy, oppression, and a destruction of their own identities. And it wasn't about religion. It wasn't about religious freedom. It was about control, autocracy, and theocracy, a medieval interpretation of the religion that had yet gone through reform. And this is the issue, is that since then, now for 48 years, they have been having buyer's remorse and trying to get rid of this oppressive force. And how do you spread that globally? Islamism spreads itself by working with other autocrats. Iran works with the Chinas of the world, demonizes the left so that Americans and folks that are against Islamism, they end up being their greatest enemy. So how do you do that? You demonize them. You claim that the evil of Israel and America is greater than anything that could come from socialism. So you got to embrace socialism. So this is where it's important. We're losing it in the universities. My kids, my wife and I, our kids are 24, 21, and 18. And if we can't teach them why free markets and meritocracy is the most human element of the gift God gave us, and why a country under God is one that we would want to die for, not jihad, not Islam, not, that's God's faith. It's between, him and an individual. But America's experiment is successful because of the essence of human nature, which is individualism and freedom. And that's why we're the most successful government country in the planet.
But I guess what I'm trying to get a handle on is how central is Islam to the revolutionary politics of the left? I mean, the overthrow of the Shah was led by the educated classes. The DSA and these other allied organizations, it's the same story. It's the same story all the time with totalitarians. They're the elites who front as representing for the hoi polloi. They don't. So, but Islam is central to this over and over again, and let me do this. This Minnesota Imam Abdul Malik, who said earlier this year in a place that's a hotbed of this, given people like Ilhan Omar and apologists like Jacob Frey, this is what he said.
Now that the people of America are standing for you, will you share with them the light and the beauty and the majesty of Islam, or will you stay in hiding? Tell the young people to continue to study, to prepare themselves to become the doctors, the lawyers, the engineers, to become the mayor, the police chief, the leaders of Congress, and those that were born in America. Prepare yourself to be America's next president. Share with the people of Minnesota the words of the Quran, the wisdom of the Prophet, and the beauty of our community, because this is your moment of grace. You have to make up your mind today as Muslims in Minnesota. What is your position in defending the lives and the future of your people? Nobody asks you to be violent. You don't have to be violent. Your weapon is your faith. Your strength is your unity. And you must quickly engage the American people, especially the people of Minnesota. We just elected a Muslim to be the mayor of New York. That's the home of 9/11. And those that are in opposition to Islam, they're watching the growth and the development of the Muslim community, and it scares them. You know why? Not because you're a threat. No. They think you're about to replace those of privilege of the days of old. They see the Muslims as their replacement. And to be honest with you, we are their replacement.
And there's the money line. The mayor of St. Louis Park, Minnesota, spending July 4th meeting with the president of Somalia. The El Sayed I mentioned in Michigan, the Islamic centers that are sources of controversy in places like Little Rock, Arkansas, and Texas, and frankly, even the northwest side of Chicago right now, a former Catholic property that could be sold to be converted into an Islamic center. You know, how should we understand those politicians and religious leaders in the Islamic community who are saying such things?
Well, we certainly shouldn't dismiss it. We certainly shouldn't pretend that somehow this is just an aberration. Islam has a massive problem, and it has not gone through a revolution. It has not gone through an enlightenment process for modernization and reformation. And ultimately, this is why the American Revolution changed the world. Theocracy was defeated, and Islam has not gone through that. I argued that in Oxford on October 24. People can look at that 10-minute speech in which I laid out that, it's almost to say that somehow the silent Germans had nothing to do with Nazism rising. The Muslim communities that have the blessing of being born in the West and having the freedoms here can either step up and decide that this is not our faith. We have to begin to modernize the ideas. And this isn't to say that the faith that my wife and I teach our kids is not a very spiritual one that is humble and genuine relationship with God, but there is an organized faith, normalized faith from Saudi Arabia to Iran, which separates the world into the land of Islam and the land of war. And the Mamdanis are soldiers in that war. They want to defeat freedom and Westernism and Americanism, and they are elements. Hassan Piker has millions of followers, and he goes to China and says how wonderful they are, while also saying that he's a proud Muslim and campaigns for Al Sayed in Michigan and the other jihadis that are now in Congress. So my book, A Battle for the Soul of Islam, talked about how I went to one Islamic Society meeting and heard an imam, just like the one you just aired right now in 1995, in which he basically called for the replacement of the U.S. Constitution with the Quran. And I said, as a naval officer, this is sedition. We cannot even, not only should this not be spoken here, this is not, appropriate by American law to have an oath to the Constitution and then also say this. Yet nobody did anything. I separated from that meeting, separated from them, and said I would dedicate my life to defeating the Muslim Brotherhood, and yet the Muslim community has remained generally silent. We have coalitions. Our Clarity Coalition, Champions for Liberty Against the Reality of Islamist Tyranny, is about this blue-gold axis against the Islamists and the Marxists, the red-green axis. But, this is coming. This is the beginning of an internal battle which will lead to, in many ways, no different than the Civil War, a civil war of some kind within the left for, the realities of what American ideas should be.
I mean, the Pew Research Center finds 44% of self-identified Muslim Americans view Hamas favorably. So that's not the majority of American Muslims, but 44% is a pretty sizable plurality. And it just strikes me that with front men like Mamdani and some of his cohorts, what they're attempting to do is to usher in Islamism through the sort of secular patina of Democrat socialism. Is that fair?
Yep. It's a mutually symbiotic parasitism between the far left and the Islamists as collectivists. But when they get into power, they end up getting at war also. The Socialist Party of Europe was embracing Tariq Ramadan, the grandson of the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, for a generation. He was the Mamdani of Europe, and now he's in jail by the French for raping and other horrific acts that he did. And the bottom line is that the Socialist Workers' Party of Europe separated from the Islamists and said, oh, wait a minute, we didn't realize they were anti-women, anti-gay, all these other things. And they used each other symbiotically as parasites to defeat their greatest enemy, which is free markets. And like you said, Obamacare, for example, knew that all you needed to do is take over 20% of the American economy and you can begin to socialize America. And that's what that was about. Same thing with politics, electoral politics. Because we have small percentages that vote in elections, you only need to take over 10 to 20% of the electorate in order to completely shift the American conversation and American political movements. And that's exactly what the DSA is doing within their party. And it's left now to the American conservative movement and our independents in the center, which is why the district I'm running in is a flip district, is a swing district that we can flip. And my opponent in November is being flanked by a DSA guy. And I can tell you that at the end of the day, if we don't win these independent districts, America is going to be so divided. We have a lot more to come.
All right. So Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, the 4th District in Arizona, the website Z4AZ, Z for AZ, like Zuhdi for Arizona, Z4AZ.com to support his candidacy. We should do so in Chicagoland. We got a lot of Chicago expats in the Scottsdale area for starters. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, also the co-founder of the Muslim Reform Movement, former U.S. Navy lieutenant commander, and again, Z4AZ.com. Dr. Jasser, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
And,
thanks.
And Dr. Jasser joined us on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey Chicagoland, Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. The military taught me that every mission is different. You assess the situation, listen to your team, then execute a plan built around what's needed. Same with helping families sell their homes. Whether it's an inherited house, a parent needing senior living, or life's just taking you in a new direction, we don't show up with a one-size-fits-all answer. We start by listening. What's your timeline? What are you worried about? What would make this easier? Then we build a solution around your needs. No repairs or clean out are necessary. You pick the timeline that works for you, keep your memories, and we handle everything else. Since 2007, our veteran-led team has earned hundreds of 5-star reviews by doing exactly that, listening first, and treating every family with respect. If you're ready for a no-obligation conversation, call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com. That's jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
Streaming services, retail chains, and tech giants are all adding plus to their names. It's fairly obvious they were inspired by Hassellus Mattress. Hassellus showrooms are employee-free, plus unbeatable prices on Tempur-Pedic, plus free next-day delivery, plus 60-month interest-free financing on select Tempur-Pedic with approved credit, plus a $300 MasterCard gift card with your Tempur-Pedic mattress. Maybe we should change our name to Hassellus Plus. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hassellus.com.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 7:37, speaking of Minnesota, we'll be talking to John Hindraker, president of the Center of the American Experiment, contributor to PowerlineBlog.com. They're based in Minnesota, but we'll be talking more generally about the midterm elections as the fallout from the Graham Plantner departure continues. 7:37 with John Hindraker. Now we check the headlines with Scott.
70 degrees in the QC Kinetics newsroom. An Illinois ban on some semi-automatic firearms and magazines over certain capacities is likely now headed to the U.S. Supreme Court. Thursday, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals reversed a federal district court decision that found Illinois' ban unconstitutional. Illinois State Rifle Association Executive Director Richard Pearson expressed optimism the case will now go all the way to the High Court.
We have mountains of evidence. I think somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 pages of evidence upholding our position.
The court took up Viramontes versus Cook County last week. Chicago aldermen reject an attempt by Mayor Brandon Johnson to ask voters about a tax on millionaires in a non-binding referendum on the November ballot. After one state lawmaker resigned last week following the conclusion of an investigation into claims of sexual harassment, and another Democrat was federally indicted this week, Republican state lawmakers are trying to call for stronger responses from House leadership and Democrats like Speaker Chris Welch, who told reporters yesterday he believes federal wire fraud and witness tampering charges brought against Representative Carol Ammons and her husband are serious. But Welch also believes in the representative's right to due process.
I have to take them seriously, and that's why I've temporarily suspended her from the caucus and committees, use of our staff.
Across the aisle, House Minority Leader Tony McCombie Thursday disagreed with Welch during a press conference at the Capitol.
Illinois cannot continue to operate this way. Speaker Welch should publicly call for her resignation, as he has demanded in other cases.
McCombie agreed when asked if an investigation should take place over the conduct of Ammons at the state level. Welch says that is a matter for the Attorney General to decide. Chicago sports. Cubs failed to sweep their three-game road set with the Orioles. Following a 3-2 loss, they visit Cincinnati tonight. White Sox swept out by the Red Sox 2-1. However, Mune Murakami is expected to be back in the lineup tonight after rehab appearances with AAA Charlotte. The news service of Steiner Homes. Building homes is more than a business. It's a calling. Family-owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship you can trust. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com, Northwest Indiana's leading home builder. Up next, a check of the roads in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center on AM 560. The Answer.
Hugh Hewitt has a solution for the birthright citizenship ruling.
A lot of people are passionate about it because Joe Biden broke the border, and there are birth tourism scandals more than you want to know about. And it's something that we ought to prosecute, something that we ought to prevent to the extent of the law possible via visa reform and via what the president has done, which is close the border.
The Hugh Hewitt Show. Afternoons at 2, right before Alex Marlowe at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're looking to refinance a home after a divorce, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Today, meet Lori, 50, social worker, score 650, income 90 G's a year. Call to refinance her mentally abusive ex-husband off the mortgage and title of their marital home per the divorce decree. Team Hochberg loan officer Anna Webdell helped Lori remove her ex-husband from the mortgage and title of the home, pay off debt totaling over $60,000, which included her attorney's fees, and saved her over $1,000 a month. Let's review. Team Hochberg loan officer Anna Webdell helped Lori remove her mentally abusive ex-husband from the mortgage and deed of the marital home, pay off all her debt, attorney's bills, and saved her over $1,000 a month. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643114.
Are you prepared for the Illinois estate tax? If your estate is worth over $4 million, your heirs could face a tax bill of up to 16% when you pass. Financial advisor Scott Tucker and the team at Scott Tucker Solutions can show you ways to potentially reduce or even eliminate that burden. One strategy is to start gifting assets during your lifetime to lower the taxable value of your estate. Another option is setting up irrevocable trusts, which can shield wealth from estate taxes. Charitable donations and life insurance policies can also be smart tools to offset tax liabilities. Call Scott Tucker and the Scott Tucker Solutions team now, 847-474-3888, or go to 560retirement.com. That's 847-474-3888, or go to 560retirement.com. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Now that summer is here, it's time for some summer home maintenance.
Let's go!
Hot water issues? Call CenterGuard Plumbing. Right now, get a new 40-gallon atmospheric vent water heater installed for just $1,295 standard installation, or a 50-gallon for $1,395 standard installation with free haul away of your old tank. A proud sponsor of AM 560, you'll save hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on tankless and atmospheric vent water heaters with CenterGuard Plumbing. Plus, get 10% off any licensed plumbing contractor competitor's price. CenterGuard Plumbing is Chicagoland's same-day water heater experts. Call before noon and they can schedule your repair or install the same day on in-stock water heaters. You're only a text away from install today. Call 847-406-8883. Mention AM560 to receive summer special pricing. That's 847-406-8883. Call or text 847-406-8883 or visit CenterGuardPlumbing.com.
Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get the parts and service you need fast from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
7:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. In Bartlett, there's a report of an accident, West Bartlett Road and Jody Lane. Delays in Zion because of an accident, Lewis and 24th, and in Willowbrook, 75th and Route 83, 8094, all due to an accident. There are eastbound delays between Indianapolis Boulevard and Burr. Slowdowns on the Jane Addams I-90 eastbound between Meacham and Route 53. Traffic is a service of Allstate. Wish you could save on home insurance with Allstate? You could easily saving at quality protection. It's a win-win. What are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You are in good hands with Allstate. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. The forecast in our Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Clouds and sunshine. Less humid for the afternoon and a high of 82.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. This hourly segment is brought to you by The Real Story with Jeannie Ives and Amy Jacobson. Heard weekday mornings at 11 on AM 560. The Answer. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Candidates are making themselves available to replace the failed Nazi oyster farmer in the Maine Senate race. One of them is Sheena Bellows. Or is it Sheena? Sheena Bellows? Sheena Bellows? It doesn't matter that much. I'm in. The people of Maine have been building something real, a movement that deserves to go all the way to November, blah, 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 blah. My point of bringing her up is we've heard about her before. Graham Plattner is not the first Mainer to make enough of a spectacle of themselves to generate national attention. Remember this Zoom call back in the day about trying to remove Trump from the ballot were he to run again in 2024.
Well, what Secretary Griswold just said and named is something that was unimaginable 2 years ago or 10 years ago, and that is election sabotage. It is a crystal clear example of what's happening all across the country. So we need to organize to make sure we have better leaders in positions of power to fight back against that. Secretary Benson talked about voter suppression, and that's something that when we started our careers at the ACLU and Southern Poverty Law Center,
Southern Poverty Law Center,
fighting back about systematic, structural voter oppression, targeting specifically Black and brown voters. It's rooted in white supremacy. That is something we have to continue to do work on. And Secretary Merrill talked about the For the People Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. We must have federal standards all across the country. And then finally, just to echo my colleagues, this is rooted in a deliberate an organized campaign to discourage people from participating in our democracy. It is an attack on our very democracy itself, because when everyone participates, everything that we care about, social justice, climate justice, economic justice, we win. Those on the other side are trying to discourage people from participating. That's what this really is about. We have to fight back to protect our democracy, to protect everything.
Yeah, and so that's
such a good point.
Yeah, great point. Thank you so much. And this was on a call with other secretaries of state. She's the main secretary of state. Benson from Michigan, Griswold from Colorado. All of these ladies were involved in trying to prevent Trump from ballot access in their states in 2024 when he was running again. That was a Zoom call where they were foreshadowing all the positions that the Democrat Socialist takeover would present, including opposition to things like voter ID that we're fighting out now with respect to the SAVE Act that has beset the DSA party, despite the fact that 85% of the public supports such modest measures. She's one. Another candidate is this guy named Jordan Wood, who I guess ran unsuccessfully for federal office in Maine previously. And it's another tattoo story. This time it's not an SS tattoo. He has an Obama logo tattoo on his arm. I got this tattoo a few years ago as a reminder of what hope and a positive vision can do in our politics. And yes, I knew what it was when I got it. I'm not sure which we should be more offended by. And then, of course, Troy Jackson. He's the Maine legislator that's been backed by the DSA, already endorsed by them. And so right out of the gate, despite the fact that a scrub of his social media accounts find he's never commented on the topic, what's first out of the gate for Troy Jackson now that he's got the DSA endorsement and is aspiring for the nomination, the replacement? Stop the genocide in Gaza. Right on cue. More authentic working class heroes in the offing in Maine, as throughout the party. For more on all this, please be joined by John Hindraker, president of the Center of the American Experiment and contributor to Powerline, powerlineblog.com. John, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always great to be with you, Dan.
So I'm not sensing that there's a lot of humbling that's going on over there in the Maine DSA party with respect to the candidates that are presenting themselves. And so it's going to be somewhat of a similar race with someone replacing Plattner who has slightly less baggage, which, of course, is a very easy bar to clear.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to come up with another socialist replacement. Troy Jackson is the name I keep hearing, but obviously they've got a number of them. They're interchangeable, and we're going to have a far left candidate running against Susan Collins.
Well, just thinking about Minnesota, because, we were focusing so much on these defend races, and we're not really focusing on pickup races in particular. Minnesota is always a significant underdog race, but is there any momentum there with like a Michelle Tafoya to surprise in a place like Minnesota this cycle?
Well, I think there is, Dan. If her name sounds vaguely familiar to our listeners, it's probably because she was a very well-known sports broadcaster. She did sideline reporting for Monday Night Football, reported on the Olympics, all that kind of thing. So she has good name recognition. She's a very able candidate. Michelle's a friend of mine, and I tried for quite a while to get her to jump into politics, and she finally did this year. She's raising money. I think she's raising some national money. I know she's raising some national money, and that's a perennial problem for Minnesota Republicans. You get outspent 3-1, 5-1, 7-1. But Michelle's going to be competitive, and I think we're going to have a competitive candidate for governor as well. And I think one way or another, we're probably going to break our 20-year losing streak in statewide elections.
Really, you're that optimistic that this could be the year?
Well, we've got an attorney general candidate running against Keith Ellison, who's going for a third term. Keith Ellison has really been tarred with the scandals, the fraud scandals that we have here in Minnesota. Ellison has never been all that popular. He won by a pretty narrow margin against a much less strong candidate in 2022. This year, the Republicans have got a very strong candidate. Again, a friend of mine who's a member of my organization's board of directors running against him, and I think Ellison is going down. That one, I think we're going to win. Well, we'll see about the others.
And part of this is buoyed. I mean, it's sort of a good news, bad news. Part of it is buoyed by the the Leering Center fraud exposés continue, and they're being translated into prosecutions. I saw that a woman named Fahima Mahmood pled guilty to daycare and COVID fraud on the order of almost $4 million recently.
Yeah, so Feeding Our Future is the famous one, and that's been going on since the beginning of 2022. My organization has been all over that for 4.5 years now. But just before Memorial Day, the U.S. Attorney's Office down the first 15 cases involving around 50 or so criminal defendants that arise out of Medicaid programs in Minnesota. Now, this is an old-fashioned Medicaid overbilling, where the checks are being written to doctors and hospitals. This is people setting up nonprofits, sometimes for-profit organizations that provide or claim to provide soft services to poor people. And these Medicaid programs in Minnesota, the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI say that at least half of the $18 billion spent on them in the last, 4 years or something was fraudulent, at least half. So we're talking about $9 billion, $10 billion, $11 billion in fraud on top of the $500 million in the Feeding Our Future scandal. So it's really a huge story here in Minnesota. And I think it's one of the things that give Republicans a great opportunity.
Is it, because it's something where we're thinking about this, is this something that should be central to the Republican Party's messaging going into November and beyond? And this is an opportunity for J.D. Vance to expand his portfolio since he's the point man on the fraud task force. And boy, if there's some evidence that this really is making like a Tim Walz or a Keith Ellison an albatross around the neck of that party up and down the ballot in Minnesota, then maybe that's something that should be replicated elsewhere.
Well, people talk about California for starters. I mean, California, obviously a huge state, and they're as far left as Minnesota. I mean, you read people speculating that the fraud numbers in California dwarf the billions we're talking about in Minnesota. I'm sure that's true. And then states like Ohio have come up as having a lot of fraud in welfare programs. So I think whatever state you're in, this is an issue that ought to be investigated and ought to be pursued.
We recently had a missive issued by the Mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, that Chicago's experienced an increase in ICE enforcement activity. Now's the time to stand united, support our neighbors, blah, blah, blah. Our office is monitoring. Point is this, they're trying to continue to demagogue the issue, even though ICE is continuing enforcement, but much lower profile. They've made a tactical change in approach given from the operations earlier in the year and last year in places like Chicago and Minneapolis. And I just wanted to sort of get your handle, since with the Alex Preddy and Renee Good officer-involved shootings in Minnesota that made that place sort of central in their efforts, the Open Borders crowd's efforts against ICE, where that stands in Minneapolis now. Is it something like this where now you've really got to dig because they're doing things more, I want to say surreptitiously, but just more tactically, and so there's not the opportunity for the cause celebs from the professional activist class that there were previously, both in Chicago and Minneapolis?
I don't think there's much going on here. It's not in the headlines. We're not seeing violent clashes, nothing like that. The two cases that you mentioned have not been in the news. The investigations are ongoing, and with luck, they'll still be ongoing in November. Right. And so the Democrats obviously are trying to run against President Trump, and ICE is part of that. We poll every quarter with our magazine, Thinking Minnesota. We don't do it. I mean, we have a pollster, but so we poll the whole ICE thing, and it's not that great an issue for Democrats, contrary to what you might think reading the newspapers. Large majority of Minnesotans want local law enforcement to cooperate with the federal authorities, not try to frustrate them. And an overwhelming majority endorse ICE's mission. They say if you got an illegal alien who's also got a criminal record here or anywhere, he should get out. So, I'm not sure that the whole anti-ICE thing, it was great for the activism, for drawing people in from around the country, getting the headlines. I don't know that it's a great issue for November.
John Hindraker, president of the Center of the American Experiment, contributor to Powerline, powerlineblog.com. John, thanks as always.
Great to be with you, Dan.
You too. And John, join us in the elfwealthgroup.com answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Business owners, now's the time for your business to make the move to a locally owned business bank. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that you don't have to look far. Signature Bank was founded in Chicago with a simple mission: to help companies like yours grow, succeed, and thrive. Their decisions are made locally by a terrific team that knows your name, cares about your business, and invests in your success. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. I'm a customer. As business owners, they knew that local family-owned businesses were not getting the help they needed or deserved. So I invite you to reach out to my friends at Signature Bank today. Write the number down. Remember this phone number, Signature Bank, 773-467-5630, and learn all about this great bank, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Have you been watching gold and silver lately? Hard to ignore. Back in January of 2025, silver was under $30 an ounce, and now it's more than doubled. Again. Not bad, right? Some experts say this bull market is just getting started. Others say it's a good time to take some money off the table. Either way, whether you're buying or selling, Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is the place to go. They stock large quantities of all the major bullion coins and bars. And here's what sets them apart. Unlike places that only pay melt value, Fox Valley Coins pays more for high-grade coins and scarcer dates. That's real money left in your pocket. They also buy scrap sterling flatware, jewelry, silver-plated items, and old proof sets. And they specialize in U.S. and foreign collector and investment coins and currency, both buying and selling. Fox Valley Coins, one light north of I-88 on Route 59 at Ferry Road in Naperville. Family-owned with integrity since 1981.
Want to see my drawers?
He means the drawers of the Briley bedroom from Penny Mustard.
With full extension drawer glides and sturdy bottoms that are 3/8 of an inch thick.
Strong enough to stand on.
And that's good, because nothing's worse than when your bottom falls out.
He means your drawer bottom.
What are you waiting for? Come see my drawers. The Briley bedroom, American made with a queen bed, dresser, mirror, and nightstand, starting at $99.33 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
The following is a message from the management of AM 560 The Answer and Salem Media of Illinois, LLC. We have become aware of comments made during the June 27th broadcast of The Unsafe Space, carried on AM 560 and hosted by Jenny McGuire and Tom McIntosh, that do not represent the values and mission of this radio station. In that broadcast, the host claimed that Rocio Cleveland had been disciplined by her employer for stalking. This claim is hereby formally retracted. Further, during the broadcast, the hosts used an inappropriate racial term to refer to Ms. Cleveland. On behalf of the station, we would like to apologize to Ms. Cleveland for the use of this term. The Unsafe Space is paid programming, and neither Ms. McGuire nor Mr. McIntosh are employees of AM 560 The Answer or Salem Media. Their views and opinions do not reflect those of the station or our parent company.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, at Evenings of Conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Coming up at 8:38, of course, it's Open Mic Friday to round out the week, taking your calls. Any topic you would like to discuss. But before we get to that, at 8 o'clock, we'll turn our attention to sports and politics. Both the issue of sports gambling as well as, did you see the payout for the U.S. World Cup soccer team, the men's soccer team? There's a share that has been imposed upon them by the collective bargaining agreement in the name of equity. We'll discuss at 8:08. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
Watch your back. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. President Trump is warned Iran is working on an assassination plot. Fox's Tanya J. Powers reports.
Reported intelligence coming from Israel suggests Iran had developed a new plan to assassinate President Donald Trump, according to the Wall Street Journal. For years, Iran has vowed to retaliate against Trump for the 2020 U.S. strike that killed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps General Qasem Soleimani. But a fresh plan would mark an escalation in the longstanding threats. The warning follows days of massive memorial ceremonies for Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed in U.S. airstrikes in late February. Some mourners threw stones at a billboard showing Trump with a bullet aimed at his head, while others held placards that said, "Kill Trump" in English.
No new U.S. military strikes were reported in Iran after 2 nights of them and retaliatory strikes in the region from Iran. A bipartisan housing affordability bill becomes law tonight with or without the president's signature unless he vetoes it. The 10-day window for that closes at midnight. He canceled the signing ceremony last month, demanding that Congress also pass new voting laws, the SAVE Act. Victor Marx is declared the winner of the Republicans' primary for governor in Colorado.
Marx, a Marine Corps veteran, defeating State Senator Barbara Kirkmeyer, posted a video to social media with this to say to his supporters.
Thank you to every voter, volunteer, and supporter who helped us get here. And to those of you who supported someone else in the primary, I want you to hear me clearly. There's a place for you in this campaign.
The Colorado gubernatorial primary was held on June 30th, but all of the counties took days to report their final results. Sue Guzman, Fox News.
A Chula Vista, California man has been convicted of murdering his wife and mother of their 3 children. Larry Millette denies any involvement in his wife Maya's disappearance 5 years ago. No body's ever been found. Prosecutors got a conviction on circumstantial evidence. America's listening to Fox News.
72 degrees, sunshine at 8:02 in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Chicago aldermen are rejecting an attempt by Mayor Brandon Johnson to ask voters about a tax on millionaires. The City Council Rules Committee turned down Johnson's proposed non-binding referendum for the ballot. But that didn't stop former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn and State Representative LaShawn Ford, who've also taken next steps in their campaign to raise taxes on people who earn more than $1 million. Our Jim Talamonte is at Chicago City Hall.
Introduced 2 ordinances in Chicago on Thursday calling for a citywide referendum. The Center Square asked Quinn why Illinois does not place a cap on property tax increases like Indiana does.
That has not worked well in Illinois. There are too many exceptions. Now, I think we ought to take a look at those exceptions.
On Wednesday, Illinois House Speaker Chris Welch told the Center Square reporter Sean Reed he fought for Ford's state constitutional amendment proposal this year.
I certainly would ask folks to join me in the fight to tax the rich, to pass the surcharge tax on millionaires.
Welch said lawmakers should consider the tax if a special session is called for any reason. I'm Jim Talamonte.
The gas tax holiday in Indiana will result in $533 million in lost tax revenue for the state and local governments. However, drivers have been saving around 61 cents on every gallon of gas they buy in Indiana. That holiday ends on August 6. Governor Mike Braun's administration said yesterday the state easily has the reserves to pay out to local governments to be reimbursed for any money lost. Cubs lost to the Orioles 3-2, while the White Sox were swept by the Red Sox, losing at home 2-1. The news, a service of Steiner Homes. Building homes is more than a business, it's a calling. Family-owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship you can trust. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com. Steiner Homes, love where you live. Time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Charles Payne, and this is the Fox Business Report.
There's a sign airfares won't be coming down anytime soon, even though crude oil prices have moderated. Delta Airlines is standing by its forecast for the year. Its earnings for the recent quarter topped expectations, even though Delta says it was absorbing the highest quarterly fuel expense in its history. The airline says demand continues to be strong, and there are no signs of weakness or shift in patterns in demand. Delta Airlines shares are up more than 2%. A South Korean chip maker that provides technology for artificial intelligence, SK Hynix, launches the U.S. version of its stock today on the NASDAQ. Financial tech company Circle Internet Group has received approval from U.S. regulators to establish a national trust bank. It'll be called Circle National Trust. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosolda. Invested in you.
Sean Fest returns on August 28th at the Westin Chicago Northwest in Itasca. Be a part of a live, on-location broadcast of The Sean Thompson Show, including a performance of the national anthem, followed by live music, food, drinks, and an opportunity to meet Sean Thompson. Registration is free. Go to 560theanswer.com/SeanFest. That's 560theanswer.com/SHAUN Fest. Sponsored in part by Class A Insurance, owned by Thomas Iacenta. WIND, Chicago. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr., now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560, The Answer.
Tired of posting to your business's social media but only your employees notice it? Meanwhile, your competitors are winning over customers by racking up thousands of views. At Myers Media, we create social media content that gets engagement and drives sales. Here's how it works. If you're in Chicagoland, we sit down with you and come up with all the ideas. Then we handle the filming, editing, and posting. You don't lift a finger. Out of town? No problem. We build the scripts, coach you through filming it on your phone. Then we take care of the editing and posting. Myers Media also does bigger projects like website videos, event filming, and paid ads that make people pick up the phone and call you. You know what makes your business special, and we know how to turn that into content that gets noticed and gets you customers. Schedule a consultation with us today at MyersMedia.net. Again, that's Myers, MEYERS, media.net. At Myers Media, we create social media content that gets engagement and drives sales. MyersMedia.net. Let's get you noticed.
I'd like to tell you about a man named Phineas who as a child survived the Holocaust. Phineas survived because Christians hid him from the Nazis, risking everything to save his life. Today, Phineas is in his 80s. He can no longer stand on his own or even leave his home to receive medical care. And when sirens sound and missiles fall, he doesn't have the time or the strength to reach safety. But once again, Christians are helping to save his life. Through the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, a mobile clinic brings doctors and medicine right to Phineas's doorstep, providing care that he otherwise would not receive, especially during a time of war. Phineas said, "Christians saved my life during the Holocaust, and now again, they are helping me." As Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day approaches, remember these precious children of God by lifting them up in prayer, asking for His protection, His comfort, and His peace. Stand with Israel in prayer by visiting supportifcj.org. That's supportifcj.org.
Shh, here she comes. Surprise! They sent a duplicate shipment to your flower shop. Now you have to pay for 1,000 extra carnations. Also, there's a beehive outside your store, and they're super aggressive. There's thousands of them.
Progressive knows small business owners usually don't like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise, saving 10% or more on commercial auto insurance when you pay in full.
Also, the egg salad you just ate was expired. Gross.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Nearly 1 in 10 Americans don't fall asleep in a bed. Can you relate? Do you live with one of them? Blissfully unaware how much stress that old, worn-out, ugly recliner is putting on the body? You need rest and recovery. You need a Z-Cliner, designed and engineered for sleeping with built-in heat and massage. It means all-day comfort and, finally, a good night's sleep. Don't waste another night when you could be this comfortable. Visit zcliner.com to find a retailer near you. The Z's are waiting.
It's hard to deny the constant attack of negative emotions that flood us online. The fear, anxiety, worry, and confusion that come from the constant stream of news and social media can be overwhelming. There is a way to escape this never-ending cycle and find peace, hope, and joy in your daily life. Christianity.com, with a wide range of daily devotionals, biblical answers to life's toughest questions, and insightful Bible study articles from your favorite pastors and authors on current events and issues, Christianity.com provides a little heaven on earth. Go to Christianity.com now.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
(8:10). Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy, an accident on the right-hand shoulder. It's on the inbound side between Damon and the Hubbard Street Tunnel. Stop and go on the Jane Addams this morning, eastbound between Meacham and Route 53. Delays, roadwork problems, southbound and northbound 53 in that roadwork zone. And delays in Willowbrook, 75th and Route 83. Accident cleanup continues. Traffic, a service of ExpressPros.com. Your logistics business moves pretty fast. Is your team keeping up? Express Employment Professionals keeps you connected with qualified talent fast. Visit ExpressPros.com for an office. Express Employment Professionals. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now a check of your forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect patchy fog in the morning, leading to reduced visibility. The day will be humid with a mix of clouds and sunshine, reaching a high of 81. Tonight will be clear to partly cloudy with a low of 65. Tomorrow is set to be mostly sunny and pleasant with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is sponsored by Saving the American Dream with Jim Martyr, Faith, Family, Freedom. This Saturday evening at 7 on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I wonder if any of the U.S. men's World Cup soccer team will speak out about this. Even though it's a known quantity, I just like, where's the anti-Megan Rapinoe? Anybody? As if there wasn't a strong enough case to make against this weenie calisthenic called soccer. we're going to talk about sports gambling, but I got to get this in. I just have to. The U.S. women's national team is getting a payout from the U.S. men's team making it to the round of 16. The U.S. men's team gets $16 million from FIFA for reaching the round of 16 before being eliminated by the Van Dams. But because of Megan Rapinoe's bitching and the identity politics that cowers all these big tough guys in professional sports, there's a rev share as part of the collective bargaining agreement that was negotiated after the gender discrimination suit filed against the women's soccer team, a gender discrimination suit that was based in economic illiteracy. But, far be it for anybody to use the opportunity for a teachable moment. Give you an example of what I mean. The U.S. men's national team earned $13 million for reaching the round of 16 at the 2022 World Cup. The U.S. women's national team earned $1.87 million for reaching the same stage a year later in 2023. So basically like a 6x difference. And that is evidence of gender discrimination, not fan interest. Not the actual economics of who's watching, what advertisers are willing to pay, and so on and so forth. It's a grand conspiracy to discriminate against female soccer players in the United States. That's what they alleged, frivolously. But who will stand against it? No one. Will any of the men's soccer team players say anything about this? So they get $60 million. U.S. Soccer keeps 20% of the prize money, so the 80% that's remaining split evenly between men and women's player pools. So even though women played no games, each team gets $6.5 million, so each player gets about $250,000, a little bit less. The U.S. women's team has not qualified for the World Cup in Brazil on their side next year, but they could, and they could, make some money, and then that would be split evenly too. But I mean, again, the going back to 2022, 2023, the economics are such that men are splitting their at the time $13 million, this year $16 million, versus getting to the same round $1.87 million back in 2023, 6x difference. I just had to get that in because the whole, politics makes cowards of so many, across the range of issues. And sports is no exception. All the big tough guys, big chest beaters, and they cower, and they essentially acquiesce to things that they know are nonsensical, rather than exhibit anything that would actually, to me, motivate people to actually treat them as role models. Charles Barkley was right, but not for just the reasons he mentioned in that infamous ad so many years ago. Maybe some of these guys will start, side hustling with the mob like NBA players to make a little bit of money by. The problem is, how do you throw stats in soccer? There's no scoring. It's a lot easier for Malik Beasley, the latest NBA player indicted in that sports gambling scandal that a couple of years ago now, or about a year and a half ago maybe, that roped in people like Chauncey Billups, who's an NBA All-Star, coach of the Blazers. He'd be like $100 million in his career, and he's involved in fixing poker games, and these mob families he was involved with were involved in fixing prop bets in the NBA too, it would appear. Which is a larger topic about gambling in our culture that we've talked about intermittently on this show over the years as gambling has become ubiquitous in all its forms. And speaking of politics again, politicians trying to get through the back pocket of people, mostly who can least afford to lose it, what they can't get through the front pocket, as we see with the lottery and video poker and casinos and sports books and so on and so forth. For more on all this, we're pleased to be joined by Greg Maresca, New York City native, U.S. Marine Corps vet, who writes for the Sample News Group while residing in the Pennsylvania coal region. He's got a piece over at Spectator. When the game becomes the bet. Greg Maresca, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's an honor to be here, Dan. Thank you for having me.
So, your perspective on this latest round of a scandal of fixing of stats and bets, and the influence of gambling in professional sports that has most notably recently ensnared Malik Beasley with the others previously mentioned, and against the backdrop of the change in sports betting culture that was ushered in with that Supreme Court decision almost a decade ago now.
When you look, yesterday, Front Office Sports broke down the business behind, and you mentioned it earlier, the lead up to the segue here, the World Cup tournament. And, from media rights, sponsorships, ticket sales, tourism, sports betting will be about $600 billion. You follow the money. An example here in Pennsylvania is in Center County. Center County is the middle of the state, out by Penn State. Penn State is the host, institution in that county. And they just opened up a casino there last month. And the first take was $3 million. So now check that, $6.5 million the first month. The second month, it was $31 million.
Mm-hmm.
And they have just under 600 slot machines. I don't know if they have a sports book or not, but I'm sure the university would not like that, because with NIL and the players betting, and you saw that with the case with the quarterback out of Texas Tech, Brendan Sorsby, he went try to get in the supplemental draft. He was gambling, but then at the same time, the NFL's hypocrisy, of the betting culture, which they profit from, obviously they're not drafting him, at least not this time. He'll be probably eligible in 2027, but nonetheless, he'll come into the league probably about that time. But the league profits from that, and I thought it was kind of funny. I figured, maybe they sent him a letter, and at the top of that letter was some letterhead from DraftKings. This letter is sponsored by DraftKings.
Yeah, right.
It's obscene. It's ridiculous. Even out here in Pennsylvania, out with the Amish. There's a lot of Amish out there in Center County. My son is a junior at Penn State on the main campus. And you go out there, and even the Amish have like their own Powerball lottery jackpot. It's now up to 6 dozen eggs and 2 bicycles.
Hi-oh!
But it's like you said, it's ubiquitous. It's all over the place. And now with these prop bets, it becomes even, it just gets deeper. And for whatever reason, it seems to me that there is never enough tax revenue for politicians.
Oh, yeah.
Gambling has been encouraged by most of these guys, not all of them, but by most of them, as they have this appetite for tax revenue. And you can equate that argument for marijuana legalization as well. It's the same street.
I want to get to the prop betting piece, but just since you brought it up, I remember when I went out to the U.S. Army War College in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. This has to be 10, 12 years ago. And, when we actually, the portion of the week-long program that I did, I'm not military. I was just a civilian participating in week-long program. But the part of the program when we went out and actually got the tour of the battlefield and the history of that, as we're on the bus to get out to the site, you see all these signs in the yards of residents around Gettysburg with gambling X'd out. And this was when there was an effort to put a casino basically at Gettysburg. And, the residents recoiled. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it was defeated. But I mean, that is the sort of garish, salacious, unseemly attitude of these amoral gambling impresaries. And I'm not opposed to gambling morally. I mean, I like to play blackjack. I bet on sports from time to time. I like games of chance. But I mean, there's just sort of no sense of propriety here. Can you imagine the Gettysburg being desecrated by a casino, for example?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If it's in Center County, it's coming. It's just, they're just trying to they're like the boy with the finger in the dike. Eventually it's going to come.
Well, so tell us about, it seems to me like prop betting is just an illustration of the, gambling, of the technological innovation that has allowed particularly young people, they don't have to deal with a bookie and call and get lines and place bets once a day. They can place bets every 5 seconds watching a game because they've got those apps, DraftKings and others that you just mentioned.
Absolutely. It used to be back in the day, you had the neighborhood bookie or you played the number, and then the government got involved in the lotteries, and it goes from there. But once we thought betting was a stain on the nation, now it's part of the fabric, especially of professional sports now. A statistics professor at Bloomsburg University said a long time ago that gambling is a tax on people who don't understand statistics.
Yeah, right.
And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. The explosion of legalized sports gambling, and it's relentless. It's the advertising is nonstop. It's being normalized now. But it's also an addiction. And supporters justify sports betting and casinos and as sources of revenue and jobs. However, governments should not balance budgets by encouraging behavior that would normally put anyone in the poorhouse.
Well, what are you talking about? They have a 1-800 number. If you think you have a problem, you call it. So they're insulated. They've indemnified themselves.
Have you Have you ever called that number? When you call that number, it's always above the AMT, the ATM machines in the casino, and it says, if you have a gambling problem, give us a call. Well, I called it one time, and it said, if I have an ace and a 6, what do I do next? So, I don't know how good these things really are, but they're out there. But it's kind of like window dressing. Look, we'll address the problem, but it is a growing concern because it questions whether or not is the game that I'm watching, is it legitimate?
Well, I mean, so that's a great point. Obviously, people are aware of these scandals, and there's been scandals of this sort going back to at least the Black Sox, and although that's very debatable because, don't get me started on Joe Jackson's stats in the 1990s. But you know what I'm saying. So they've been going back forever. And despite this recent scandal and stuff, too, people still see it as legitimate. And, the leagues obviously understand that if people ever started to see this as basically the WWE, you would destroy the leagues and you would destroy the money flow. So they're pretty protective of that. So is there any reason people shouldn't see professional sports as on the up and up anymore?
Well, I would hope that it's legitimate. But for the most part in American history, when you look at gambling, it was a vice, something that was, morally questionable, akin to like drinking or prostitution. In fact, mobsters will tell you that drinking, alcohol, prostitution, and gambling is recession-proof.
Yes.
And, the word back then, gambling, carried judgment. If you look at, I saw a picture not too long ago of Lou Gehrig in that famous,
luckiest man
speech when he was retiring in 1939. There was a sign back there in the outfield at Yankee Stadium, no betting. And what we've done is we've kind of bastardized the language. It's the verbiage. It's now an industry. It's the gaming industry.
Yeah.
Right. And you think of gaming, right? You think, okay, an industry is about, revenue, like economic activity, jobs, investment, state tax collections, regulation, licensing, all this kind of stuff that they get in an industry. Well, the term vice basically emphasizes, moral concerns, addiction, compulsive behavior, financial loss, corruption, family problems. So we need to get away from the vice and make it an industry, and therefore we kind of legitimize it. But most of the people that are involved in this have problems, and we're hurting a large portion of that population. I know people that do gamble. I used to do it myself. I spent 1987 in Vegas working on the strip of the Jockey Club Resort Properties across from the Aladdin Hotel. And I went out there. It was my junior year in college. Had my best semester before I went out. Had my worst semester when I came back as a senior because I was still out in Vegas. I came back with no money, and I left it all on the tables. And I realized that when I graduated, my buddy said, hey, when you graduate, come on out and get a job, blah, 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 this and that. And I thought, I can't live here. I can't do this because I know where the weakness lies. And I'm a regular, I think I'm a regular guy. I don't bet on the games anymore, but I know a lot of people that do. And it's so enticing not to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just, personally, I like to play college basketball, especially, I like to play college basketball, and I like to play cards every now and again too, and I can limit myself to that, and I treat it as what it is, sort of an avocation or a pastime with, keeping it in the range of disposable income. But a lot of people can't do that. And the thing that bothers me about it is, and this is where politics comes in, it's just the misrepresentation. You're lying about the stated benefits. You're lying about the motivations. And anytime somebody's lying about their motivations and overstating the benefits, you should be suspect. I mean, so for in Illinois, when we first introduced gambling boats, when they had to be boats, that whole sophistry of, dig a man-made lake and put a casino on it and we'll call it a riverboat. But it was to revitalize the great river towns in Illinois like Joliet and Aurora, Elgin. And let me tell you something. It did not revitalize those towns. This is all, as I said at the outset, try to get through the back pocket what you can't take legitimately through the front pocket. And it is predatory government with all these promises that are made, the euphemisms that are created, like gaming industry. And now Illinois, this is like it's a mob economy. It's gaming. You mentioned dope dispensaries, abortion mills, and we're just waiting to legalize prostitution to fully close out the mob. But it is predatory government. It is government aligned against the financial interests of the citizen. They don't gamble. Here's a 1-800 number. Save money for your mortgage. But we need you to gamble because we've already budgeted for and spent the money that we expect to get as our part of the take, as our wetting of the beak from all these gaming impresarios that we have legalized. I mean, so the dishonesty of the whole industry, and that includes the professional sports leagues, that's what really rankles me.
And, you've made an excellent argument for lean government. As government expands, it needs more money. And also, as it expands, corruption then. I mean, the corruption factor is huge. And you saw it with Beasley. Here's this guy, he's a multi-million-dollar contract.
Yeah.
But you get caught up in that stuff. And a lot of these guys come from neighborhoods, where you knew where the number was. I remember growing up, my mother playing off-track betting, OTB. It was a storefront thing. You'd go in there and place the bets. My mom had a cousin who was a jockey, and we'd bet on that horse if it would come in. And she played the lottery. She did all that kind of thing. A lot of people did that in the neighborhood as a side hustle kind of thing. But then government saw, hey, it's another revenue stream. And they always need revenue streams with all these deficits and the spending that's out of control. So why not tap into the vice?
Yeah.
Because it is recession-proof. And those mob guys are right. That's where they made their money. The feds would tolerate a lot of things with the mob. And I can speak from, you knew who they were in the neighborhood, this and that and the third. Obviously, my background, you knew who these cats were. But like they said, the feds would not tolerate drugs, but they would tolerate prostitution. They would tolerate gambling, and they would tolerate, the illegal cigarettes and alcohol coming in from the ATF, not having all the marks on them and this, that, and everything else like that. So there were certain things they tolerated and certain things they didn't tolerate.
Yeah, no question. It's just, and people look at Malik Beasley or Chauncey Billups even more to the point and say, what are you doing? But, the flip side is the stories that we know, and then people lament when they hear them. Oh, my gosh, these guys, all these professional athletes made all this money, and then a couple years out of the league and they're bankrupt because they have entourages and they've got grifters all around them, and they spend like they're going to make $5, $10, $15, $25 million every year for the rest of their lives, and so on and so forth. So all these sad stories of great players who amassed fortunes because they were very good at the sport they played, and then their bust outs. Antoine Walker in Chicago comes to mind. But that's how it happens. That's how you get your mind around a Chauncey Billups or Malik Beasley getting sucked into these schemes.
I think you'd have a guy like Pete Rozelle is probably spinning in his grave because they have a franchise in Las Vegas. And they suspended Paul Hornig years ago and Alex Karras for gambling for the whole season. And yet these guys made it to Canton, Ohio, despite losing a season. But nonetheless, it's been there with us a long, long time. They casted lots for the savior of the world for his garments. It's not going away. And government figures, well, we're going to get our cut too.
Yeah. Yeah. And then it's just that there's no ability to put, to turn a phrase on. There's no ability. There seems to be no ability to put a governor on it in a lot of places, and that becomes the problem. Illinois, a good example of that. Greg Maresca, New York City native, U.S. Marine Corps vet. He writes for the Sample News Group while residing in the coal region in Pennsylvania. Greg, thanks so much for joining us. Great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
And Greg joined us in the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Here's a tale of Becky. Didn't know what to do with new meds prescribed and no real cost clue.
She squinted at prices, that can't be right. Then tapped GoodRx and saw the light.
She could get a deal, book telehealth if she feel.
Learn about those meds without any stress. That one little app does all the rest. Even my horse downloaded it. Dang, save time and money on prescriptions.
Check GoodRx. GoodRx is not insurance.
Identity theft can cost more than you think. Drained investment accounts, stolen tax returns, lost wages, expenses for lawyers. It's a lot. That's why LifeLock is backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers up to $1 million for stolen funds, fees, and experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses. Don't face the burden of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join now. Save up to 30% off your first year with promo code BECK at LifeLock.com. 1-800-LifeLock, promo code BECK. LifeLock.com. Terms to apply.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call in now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yeah, that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, where we take your calls. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. We take your calls with comments, compliments, criticisms, concerns, general crack pottery. We'll take it all. And do have a breaking story Mike Scott just alerted me to. I'll show you an update at the top of the hour. But a Indiana State Trooper was shot near Michigan City in LaPorte County. Don't have any more details than that, but we will be updating that story, of course. Okay, 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com call line. I got a couple things I want to get to, including this targeting of He/Brews Cafe in Winnetka, targeted by the left. Winnetka, of all places. Oh, heavens. I'll take a couple calls first, get things rolling. Roy in Glen Ellen.
Yes, good morning, Dan. In the first segment, thanks for mentioning my garage band this morning, Tree Trimming Equity.
Tree Trimming Equity, yes. Yes.
We killed it for neon trees back in the day.
Yes, very good. Yes, Brandon Johnson has achieved Tree Trimming Equity, one of his major deliverables as mayor.
Just want to compliment you and the staff. Great segment on American heroes. They're really cool to listen to, and sometimes I get a little misty-eyed. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Roy. Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I'm having fun with it too. So please keep sending in, for those who haven't or those who have, stories of unsung Americans, American stories we should tell from those with a nexus to Chicagoland and Illinois. We had a couple great ones this morning that we poured over. And again, you just email me, dan@danproft.com. You can just email me directly, and we'll compile them and tell those stories as often as we can, as many stories as we get. Bob in Naperville.
Good morning, Dan. Hey, I just wanted to give a shout out to an organization I'm a part of. It's called Affordable Naperville, affordablenaperville.com. We're about a one-year-old organization of concerned citizens, and we're bringing a ton of facts to a very progressive majority in Naperville. Pretty smart people sit on this board that runs the organization. Short story is we just had our first town hall Wednesday night in Naperville with the VFW. Had over 100 attendees. Jeannie Ives was there. I don't know if you know James Taylor with the Heartland Group.
Yeah.
Incredible speaker. And we're looking forward to bringing the facts to the city council and saying, what do you have to say about this? Because they're trying to get rid of our energy supplier and about 8 years down the road, and they want to make some really crazy changes. So we're fighting what's going on. AffordableNaperville.com.
Great. Okay. Good to see. Good to hear. Thanks for the call, Bob. AffordableNaperville.com. That's encouraging. A green shoot in Naperville. Rick, Downers Grove. Hey, Rick. Rick. Rick on hold. George in Naperville.
Yes, another thank you for you, Dan, for transporting us into the lives of others. Visiting with great Americans by way of letters, wonderfully read by you, has been inspiring and most enjoyable. Good job.
Well, thank you very much, George. Appreciate it. Roger in DeKalb.
Hey, Dan, thanks for the opportunity. So I've got three quick reasons why the media is so bad today. It actually begins in the 70s, and that's when media, newspapers, and print, they all started requiring journalism degrees. And so it wasn't until the 70s that more than 50% of a newsroom became people with journalism degrees, replacing the old school beat writers, guys like Nick Shirley, who just went out and got stories. That was number one. Number two was Watergate, because it made journalists heroes, and it just inspired egomaniacs and narcissists to get those degrees to go out and fix the world the way they saw fit, which is what journalism has been ever since. It's become a narrative of almost the individual these days. It's really bad. But the third and most damning thing of all is the last time men graduated more than 40% from journalism schools in America was the 76-77 academic year. And we're told that 90% of female degree holders are hardcore single Democrat women. This is a modern problem. And I think it calls for congressional investigation, maybe a Brandon Gill or Ted Cruz, because these future cat lady, hate has no home here spinsters cannot be the leading purveyors of the American narrative. And if we could fix that problem, maybe you could find somebody to date, Dan. Have a great one.
Thanks for the call, Roger. I mean, those are good observations about the journalism profession and what's happened over the last half century. I mean, I don't know that it's not appropriate for congressional action because this is voluntary. These are the choices that people are making. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something to that, the changing professional, quote unquote professionalizations and demographics, in addition to the larger issue of who's earning BAs and BSs, what the distribution of that is these days. Good topic for conversation, more of a cultural discussion than a legislative one. Corey Woodlawn.
Hey, thanks, Dan, for taking a call. I just wanted to say thanks for the education this week. As far as I'm concerned, the best host on radio. Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that. I appreciate that compliment coming from Corey because he's a smart guy. Andy's right. He's a smart guy. I told you. All right, we'll give Rick a second chance. Rick, Downers Grove. Were you on you weren't on a breakfast date, were you? Is that why you didn't pick up?
No, I was looking at a machine. I got it set up, and I happened to hit the mute button, and of course, then I had to call back. But anyhow, hey, good morning. But two things real quick. I read somewhere that gambling addiction is the hardest addiction to get people off of. It said that you could get people off of heroin easier than getting them off of gambling. And the second thing is I heard that people were talking about the men's soccer team when they lost. They didn't play well. And I'm like, how can you tell? It's soccer.
Thanks for the call, Rick. I didn't want to get this story in. Christopher Pedden is due in Allen County Court on Monday for a May 6 fire he started in the detached garage of his mother's property. This isn't your normal residential kitchen fire story. Mr. Pedden admitted to the fire, telling officers that he went out to his mother's garage around 2 a.m. and he cut off his penis with a kitchen knife. Then he poured gasoline on detached penis and set it on fire on the floor of the garage just inside the door. Then he walked away from the property somehow and let the fire burn. I tell you, I haven't heard a story about a guy so mad at his penis since Barack Obama got elected. Bob in Buffalo Grove.
How do I respond to that?
You don't have to respond to it. You just can enjoy it like everyone else. Yeah.
Always good talking to you. Let me offer this activity for your listeners with children and grandchildren. Tomorrow I'll be planning on returning to my college alma mater, IIT, for their annual Black City event. Children will be assembling and constructing a city out of Lego bricks. Over 40,000 Lego bricks will be brought into the architectural building, the landmark Crown Hall at 3326 South State Street. I plan to show the children and the parents how to construct a model of Sears Tower. The event is free, and there's even free parking across the street from the building, but registration is required because they're expecting a large crowd. Simply Google IIT Block City 2026 to get your reservation and info on the event. Last year, in fact, I met one of your listeners at the event there. So
very good.
Just wanted to check with you.
Just make sure no one fashions Legos in the form of a gun, because I know that's a zero tolerance event, like in the schools, like with water guns and so forth, or your finger and your thumb and index finger and so forth.
You have a good weekend.
Thanks, Bob. Good luck. Have fun at your event. Have fun storming the castle. Michael in Oak Brook.
How are you, Dan? I told you I'd call in. I just don't understand, where's the GOP here with Chris Welch's history of abusing women, which is much worse than, say, Rep Benton. Why are we not calling for his resignation? Here's a man who took his fiancée by the back of the head, slammed her head against the counter multiple times. 911 came, but his friends from Hillside did not arrest him. Didn't even file charges against him, from what I understand. But the Republican Party is afraid to bring that up. Makes no sense to me. Makes no sense. I guess he threatens them with funding, so they won't get the funding if they're elected officials or mayors. So that's all I wanted to say. Have a great day.
Thanks for the call, Michael. Yeah, there was a Hillside police report to that effect, actually. The resignation of Benton and Plainfield, nice job, Plainfield, good call, for some sexual harassment or worse type of behavior. It's undisclosed, of course. There's no transparency here. That's number one. And then Carol Ammons down in Champaign, under federal indictment after her daughter was indicted not so long ago. Husband implicated in these illicit schemes.
An Illinois state representative and her husband are accused in a kickback scheme tied to campaign money. Carol Ammons serves the Urbana area. She is now facing wire fraud and other charges. Prosecutors allege that she used campaign donations for personal reasons. She's also accused of helping groups get grants that could benefit relatives. Aaron Ammons is accused of trying to mislead investigators.
Yeah, so this little Ammons crime family down there, and the response from, just getting back to the sort of guileless, limp GOP, the response from Tony McCumbee, as you've heard on Mike Scott's newscast, is we need landmark, or we need ethics legislation or ethics reform legislation. I mean, are you kidding? When I ran for governor in 2010, I remember being at the candidate forum at the Union League Club and having to listen to Kirk Dillard regale the crowd with his accomplishments as a legislator, in addition to being Jim Edgar's chief of staff, which is his main accomplishment in life. And it was, I passed landmark ethics reform legislation. And my response was, oh, you did? How did that end up working out for us? This is like, this is like a year removed from Blagojevich getting impeached and indicted, and landmark ethics. Let's say it's the weaselly parlance of the political hack. That's not what you say in response to this. Oh, call for her resignation. Chris Welch should call for his resignation. Everybody should resign all the time for all kinds of reasons. Do you have a point to your existence? Can you level with people and talk to them like people ever, as opposed to just repeating this cant that you learned at, candidate school sponsored by the political party? good Lord, string together bull-jive bromides about beating your chest. Like there's some moral high ground that's being occupied here. It's a joke. Everybody knows it's a joke, which is like they pay it no mind. We're going to continue to have the Carol Ammonses and the Harry Bentons and so many more like them as long as you have this kleptocracy. These are the people we're choosing because, going back to our conversation earlier, good people aren't running. They're ceding the land to these cacistocrats, our lessers, low-level grifters. That's what we have chosen as a populace in Illinois as to be our duly elected representatives in Springfield, with few exceptions. And I mean few out of 177. How about that? So we need to have a paradigm shift, and that means that people have to propagate a new mentality, not merely a new piece of landmark ethics reform legislation. So tiresome. Ugh. Completely incapable. Tim in Plainfield.
Hi, Dan. Hey, I'd like to respectfully request that we discuss what's going on in the Senate in more depth in the next week or so. It's not just the SAVE Act. It's my understanding he's got a stack of bills from the House that have passed, like defunding the Taliban, all kinds of stuff that has wide support, and Thun's not doing anything with it. And I don't think of course it's not just Thune, but what are they doing up there? And Trump can't have any of his appointments. I guess that's the first time in history. It's my understanding that all these judges that have dual citizenship, all these hardcore lefties, a lot of them were passed in Biden's lame duck session because the Republican senators weren't coming to work during that time. Is that correct? And it can't be just Trump.
No, thanks for the call, Tim. Trump's getting his federal judicial nominees through, but there are other issues with the Senate because you have a handful of stalwarts that establishment stalwarts that and lame duck stalwarts that don't like Trump, are upset because he essentially pressed them out of office, the Tillises and the Cassidys, and are taking it very personally because that's what this is about, them personally. It's never been about the country, despite their protestations to the contrary. We'll talk more about it. It's fairly straightforward. What more there's to say about it? The choices we make, and then the choices, the people that we the results of our choices being visited back upon us. Do we know that all too well in Illinois? Matt's outside.
Hey, good morning, Dan. That guy who cut off his junk and set it on fire, I think he wants a future in politics with the DSA. He's handling two issues at once: gender-affirming care and dealing with toxic masculinity at the same time.
That's exactly right. Thanks for the call, Matt. Probably, soon to announce candidacy, but he'd probably have to move from Indiana. Illinois seems like a good spot for him to land. Ruth and Elgin.
Hi, Dan. I just wondered with all those letters you're getting, if you ever thought of compiling them and having a book, putting them in a book. I think it'd really go over.
Thanks for the call, Ruth. Appreciate that. Yeah, well, I don't know. We'll compile, keep them, and keep soliciting and hopefully obtaining them and telling them, and who knows where it'll lead. Our own AM 560 book of unsung Americans. Yeah, maybe. Greg LaGrange.
Hey, good morning, Dan. I thought it was interesting, your piece about the lack of amount of reading that children are doing from a certain time period, not just children, but everything all the way through college up till now, the last 20 years. And I would like to know how many adults have that same issue. And I'll fully admit, I have not really finished a complete work in about a year and a half. And I think a big part of it is the distractions and ultimately a lot of what our political enemy, as C.S. Lewis would describe it in the Screw Tape, our enemy, or the Undermine America Party, as Kimberly Strassel puts it, has sown disinformation into everything and confusion. And there are a lot of other inputs to battle with. But the thing that I'm working with is I know that I have people like you on the radio that have great guests and they have great books. And the other thing is I remember this lesson I learned on Charlie Rose when he was interviewing Peter O'Toole. And I'm taking one of the great lessons and great habits of Peter O'Toole to adopt, as opposed to some of the others. Although I am a big Peter O'Toole fan, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
It's that Charlie Rose asked him one time, how do you learn this stuff? How do you learn Shakespeare? How do you do this? It's so difficult to recall. And Peter O'Toole looked at him directly and said, you sit down and you read and you rehearse and you read and you rehearse. It works. You need to be dedicated and you need to dedicate the time to do it and just focus on it. No excuses. Just focus. Find the time, cast everything else aside, and focus. So I think that's a big part of what I'm going to do in the future and get back to what I need to do to get back. And again, Dan, I always appreciate what you do. I always appreciate your morning show, of course, and I still go back to the COVID days when you ran the show and you had some of the greatest guests in the world. Between you and James Lindsay, I got through that whole period, I'm telling you, because you guys just knocked it out of the ballpark, and I'll always have that owed to you. So keep it going, buddy.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. And Shakespeare is a good place to start or to which to return, to restart. Deborah, Arlington Heights.
Hey, Dan. First of all, I'm always impressed at how masterful you are at getting your point across. And if we don't change the trajectory of education, and in a lot of churches, this country is just cooked. And also that story about the garage fire thing, can we just stop the world and kick these people off? Like, it's crazy. Have a nice weekend.
Thanks for the call, Deborah. Different. All right, I got to get to Hebrews Cafe just quickly. Hebrews Cafe, H-E, new word, Brews Cafe, in Winnetka, being targeted by the intolerant left. Here's some leftist TikTok mafia type who is targeting businesses that, are not woke.
On today's episode, we have Hebrews Cafe, who is owned by Ashley Ardiano. And if we take a look at her following, you are going to find that she follows Ivanka and the president. But if we take a closer look at her TikTok account, you are going to find this video to my left that is dedicated to Charlie Kirk. One thing I find very interesting about these MAGA people is that they are always going to have a post dedicated to Charlie Kirk because, of course, the person that was going around spreading their ideologies, he was just like a big staple to them. And as you can tell, this is a very religious person. She doesn't have any posts for the victims that were, unalived by ICE. And I don't say she has to speak about it.
I was like, one has to do with the other. You get the gist. You get the type. So, but it's having an impact on Ardiano's business. So I wanted to make sure people were aware of it, or help make sure people were aware of it. I'm not the only one raising the profile on Ardiano, thankfully. Actually, Ardiano responding to what's happening since she's been targeted by the, the keyboard neo-Bolsheviks.
Hi guys, this is Ashley Ardiano. With Hebrews Cafe. I don't know if you've seen this video, but there's a video circulating around about who I follow. And because of who I follow, it has gotten so out of hand to the extent that people are harassing my family and I, sending me threats personally, harassing my church, harassing my pastor. And it has gotten so out of hand that people are claiming and threatening to come and vandalize the business and cause damage to the property. So Harriet your video is doing a lot of harm. I hope you know that. And I would really appreciate if you have ever visited Hebrews Cafe and you enjoyed your experience, you liked your drink, if you could leave a review to combat all the negative reviews that I'm getting bombarded with today of people who have never stepped foot into the cafe. It is one thing if you came.
So, the typical, basking in the great tolerance of the left. They're totalitarians. We know this. This is just the latest illustration of their attempts to cancel or negatively impact people who disagree with them, even to the point of violent threats, even to the point of violence. This is how they operate. So Ashley Ardiano, Hebrews Cafe in Winnetka, support her business. Hebrews Cafe in Winnetka, support her business. Rally around this young entrepreneur on the North Shore. That's what I wanted to get in. All right. Well, that only leaves a little bit of time to close it out. Chuck and Delavan.
Hey, last week a hurricane came through Sharon, Lake Delavan, Geneva National, Lake Como. All the roads were blocked. There was roofs ripped off. I was supposed to be a Santa Claus on Lake Como and ride on Scott and Becky's fire truck.
All right, but you cleaned it up and you're ready to go this weekend. Thank you, Chuck. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
Let's take it down a notch. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. Fox confirms Qatari mediators are in Iran trying to de-escalate the resumption of fighting with the U.S. and get back to peace negotiations. There have been no strikes from either side today. The Wall Street Journal reports President Trump's been warned about a new Iran assassination attempt.
They've got a source telling them that Israel relayed to the U.S. intelligence about a new plot to assassinate President Trump. And frankly, it doesn't come as a surprise. The Iranians in particular have not been subtle. The banners that they displayed during the final day